The Tau homeworld, nestled in the eastern fringe of the galaxy, remained hidden from imperial eyes for millennia, while humanity spread across the stars during the Great Crusade. This blue-green world, orbiting a stable star in what would later be designated the Tau system, harbored a species that would eventually challenge the Imperium's doctrine of human supremacy through technological innovation and philosophical unity, rather than brute force or psychic might. Imperial records indicate the first contact with the Tau occurred during routine exploration missions in the 35th millennium, when Adeptus Mechanicus explorator fleets conducting long-range surveys detected signs of primitive civilization on the world. The initial reports described a species in its early Bronze Age, wielding simple metal tools, and engaged in constant tribal warfare across the planet's varied continents. The Tau of this era bore little resemblance to the sophisticated empire they would later become, existing as scattered tribes that fought endlessly over territory, resources, and ancient grievances that stretched back generations. These early Tau displayed the same blue-gray skin and distinctive facial features that characterize the species today, with their flat, broad faces, small noses, and the characteristic cranial ridge that would later house their advanced communications implants. Their society was fractured along geographical lines, with different tribes controlling various regions of their homeworld's supercontinent. The mountain-dwelling Tau had developed into hardy, practical builders and craftsmen, while those inhabiting the vast plains became swift hunters and warriors. Coastal tribes excelled at navigation and trade, and those living in the dense forests became masters of stealth and guerrilla tactics. The Imperium, stretched thin across countless fronts during this period, classified Tau as a minor xenospecies of limited threat potential. The world was marked for future compliance operations, but the sheer distance from major imperial strongholds and the species' primitive technological level relegated it to low-priority status. This decision would prove to be one of the most significant oversights in imperial history, as it allowed the Tau to develop unimpeded for 6,000 years. The transformation of Tau society began with an event that remains shrouded in mystery even to this day. During what Tau historians call the Mont'au, or Terror, their homeworld was consumed by the most devastating period of warfare in their recorded history. Technological advancement had accelerated their capacity for destruction without providing the wisdom to control it, and the various tribes had developed increasingly sophisticated weapons while maintaining their ancient animosities. Cities burned across the continents as alliances formed and shattered with bewildering speed, and it appeared that the Tau species might drive itself to extinction through perpetual conflict. The arrival of the ethereals marked the end of this dark age and the beginning of Tau ascendancy. These individuals appeared simultaneously across different regions of the homeworld, emerging from the wilderness to address the warring tribes with a message of unity and cooperation that resonated deeply with Tau psychology. The ethereals possessed a natural charisma that transcended tribal boundaries, speaking of a greater purpose that could unite all Tau under a single philosophy they called the Aun'Va, or greater good. The physical appearance of the ethereals immediately set them apart from other Tau. They stood taller than their brethren, with more pronounced cranial ridges and an almost ethereal quality to their movements that seemed to command respect and attention. Their skin often bore subtle variations in hue, and they possessed an innate ability to inspire loyalty and devotion in other Tau that bordered on the supernatural. Some imperial scholars have theorized about possible psychic abilities, though the Tau themselves vehemently deny any connection to the warp. The philosophy of the Aun'Va that the ethereals preached was revolutionary in its simplicity and power. Rather than focusing on tribal identity or personal glory, it emphasized the collective good of all Tau and the importance of each individual finding their proper place within the greater whole. This philosophy recognized that different Tau possessed different natural aptitudes and inclinations, but rather than viewing these differences as sources of conflict, the Aun'Va celebrated them as complementary strengths that could be unified toward common goals. Under ethereal guidance, the warring tribes began to coalesce around this new philosophy, gradually abandoning their ancient feuds in favor of cooperation. The process was not instantaneous, and several tribes initially resisted the ethereal message, but the combination of philosophical appeal and practical demonstration of the Aun'Va's effectiveness eventually won over even the most stubborn holdouts. The Ethereals established the first unified settlements, which they called septs, each serving as a center of learning and cooperation where Tau from different tribal backgrounds could work together. The development of the caste system represented the practical implementation of Aun'Va philosophy. The Ethereals observed that Tau individuals naturally gravitated towards certain types of activities and showed distinct aptitudes that correlated with their tribal origins and physical characteristics. Rather than forcing all Tau into identical roles, they formalized these natural tendencies into a structured society that maximized each individual's contribution to the collective good. The fire caste emerged from the warrior traditions of the Plains tribes, whose members had developed exceptional reflexes, tactical thinking, and physical coordination through generations of hunting and combat. These Tau were naturally suited to military service, but under the new system, their role expanded beyond simple warfare to encompass all aspects of protection and security for Tau society. Fire caste warriors underwent rigorous training not just in combat techniques, but in the principles of the Aun'Va that emphasized measured response, minimal necessary force, and the protection of all Tau regardless of caste. The Earth caste drew primarily from the mountain-dwelling tribes, whose members had developed exceptional skill in construction, engineering, and craftsmanship. These Tau possessed the patience and attention to detail necessary for complex technical work, and they became responsible for all aspects of infrastructure, manufacturing, and technological development. Earth caste engineers approached their work with the same methodical precision their ancestors had used to carve cities from living rock, but now their efforts served the entire Tau species rather than a single tribe. The air caste originated from the coastal tribes, whose members had developed superior spatial awareness and navigation skills through generations of maritime travel. These natural pilots became responsible for all aerial and space-based transportation, eventually evolving into the backbone of Tau interstellar capability. Air caste pilots possessed an intuitive understanding of three-dimensional movement that made them exceptional at maneuvering aircraft and spacecraft through complex environments. The water caste came from the forest-dwelling tribes, whose members had developed exceptional communication skills and diplomatic abilities through their role as mediators in intertribal trade and negotiation. These Tau became responsible for all aspects of commerce, diplomacy, and information management within Tau society. Water caste negotiators could navigate complex social situations with the same skill their ancestors had used to move unseen through dense woodlands. The ethereal caste stood above and apart from the others, serving as spiritual and political leaders whose authority derived from their role as the original teachers of the Aun'Va. Unlike the other castes, which were defined by practical function, the ethereals represented the philosophical heart of Tau civilization and served as the final arbiters in matters of policy and doctrine. The establishment of the first septs created a new model for Tau civilization that balanced local autonomy with species-wide cooperation. Each sept developed its own distinct character and specializations, while remaining committed to the overarching principles of the Aun'Va. The original septs included Tau Sept, which became the species' homeworld and spiritual center, along with several colony worlds that demonstrated the Tau's rapidly expanding technological capabilities. Tau Sept itself became a marvel of integrated urban planning, with each caste contributing its expertise to create cities that functioned as seamless wholes. Earth caste engineers designed efficient transportation networks and manufacturing centers, while air caste pilots established orbital facilities and atmospheric traffic control systems. Water caste administrators created communication networks that kept all parts of the sept functioning in harmony, while fire caste warriors established defensive positions that could protect the population without disrupting civilian activities. The Tau's first major test as a unified species came through contact with orc raiders who had established a foothold in nearby systems. These encounters provided crucial experience in applying Aun'Va principles to military operations, while facing an enemy that represented everything the philosophy opposed. The orcs' chaotic, destructive approach to warfare stood in stark contrast to Tau's emphasis on precision, cooperation, and minimal waste of resources. Early battles against orc raiders revealed both the strengths and limitations of Tau military doctrine. Fire caste warriors demonstrated exceptional discipline and tactical coordination, but their equipment and tactics were still relatively primitive compared to what they would later develop. The Tau preference for ranged combat and careful positioning proved effective against orc frontal assaults, but they struggled against the aliens' superior numbers and brutal resilience. These conflicts drove rapid innovation in Tau military technology and doctrine. Earth caste engineers worked closely with fire caste warriors to develop new weapons and equipment that could exploit Tau advantages while compensating for their physical limitations compared to larger, stronger alien species. The pulse rifle emerged from this period as the standard fire caste weapon, combining the Tau preference for precision with the practical need for stopping power against heavily armored opponents. The development of battlesuit technology represented a quantum leap in Tau military capability. Earth caste engineers recognized that individual Tau warriors, despite their training and discipline, were physically disadvantaged against larger alien species. The battlesuit concept addressed this limitation by providing Tau pilots with enhanced strength, protection, and firepower, while maintaining the mobility and tactical flexibility that characterized Tau combat doctrine. Early battlesuit designs were crude compared to later models, but they established the fundamental principles that would guide Tau military development for centuries. The suits enhanced the pilot's natural abilities rather than replacing them, requiring extensive training and integration between the warrior and their equipment. This approach reflected Tau'va philosophy by treating technology as a tool for maximizing individual potential rather than as a substitute for skill and dedication. The integration of different castes in military operations became a defining characteristic of Tau warfare. Air caste pilots provided reconnaissance and fire support from aircraft and orbital platforms, while Earth caste engineers maintained equipment and established field fortifications. Water caste operatives gathered intelligence and attempted diplomatic solutions before conflicts escalated to violence. Even when diplomacy failed, the Tau approach to warfare emphasized achieving objectives with minimal casualties on both sides whenever possible. The philosophical foundation established by the ethereals required practical implementation through social structures that could harness the diverse talents of the Tau species. The caste system that emerged represented more than simple occupational divisions. It embodied a comprehensive approach to organizing society that maximized collective efficiency while respecting individual aptitudes. Each caste developed its own distinct culture, traditions, and specialized knowledge, yet all remained unified under the overarching principles of the Tau'va. The fire caste, known in the Tau language as the Shahs, evolved from the warrior traditions of the plains-dwelling tribes into the military backbone of the expanding Tau Empire. Fire caste warriors undergo extensive physical and mental conditioning from early childhood, developing the reflexes, tactical acumen, and unwavering discipline necessary for modern warfare. Their training emphasizes not just individual combat prowess, but seamless integration with advanced technology and coordination with other caste members in complex military operations. The rigid hierarchy within the fire caste reflects both practical military necessity and Tau philosophical principles regarding earned authority through demonstrated competence. At the foundation of this structure stand the Shasla, newly graduated warriors who have completed their basic training and earned the right to bear arms in service of the greater good. These young fighters typically serve in fire warrior teams, learning practical combat skills while being gradually exposed to increasingly complex tactical situations under the guidance of more experienced leaders. Shasla warriors wear the standard fire warrior armor, a sophisticated suit of protective equipment that incorporates advanced materials developed by Earth caste engineers. The armor's blue-gray coloration with sept-specific markings immediately identifies the wearer's allegiance and unit assignment, while integrated communication systems allow for seamless coordination during combat operations. Each Shasla carries a pulse rifle as their primary weapon, a directed energy weapon that exemplifies Tau technological philosophy by delivering precise, devastating firepower with minimal collateral damage. Advancement within Fire Caste ranks depends on demonstrated competence, tactical innovation, and adherence to Aun'Va principles rather than political connections or arbitrary time-based promotion systems. Shasui represent the next tier of the hierarchy experienced warriors who have proven their ability to lead small units and adapt to changing battlefield conditions. These veterans often serve as team leaders or specialists operating advanced equipment like missile pods or rail rifles that require additional training and tactical expertise. The transition from Shasui to Shasvar marks a significant advancement in responsibility and authority within Fire Caste structure. Shasvar commanders typically lead multiple fire warrior teams or pilot advanced battlesuits that require years of training to master effectively. These officers must demonstrate not just personal combat excellence, but the ability to inspire and coordinate other warriors while making split-second tactical decisions under extreme pressure. Shassel represent the senior officer corps of the Fire Caste, experienced commanders who have proven their ability to coordinate large-scale military operations involving multiple units and different types of equipment. These officers often serve as SEP defense coordinators or lead expeditionary forces into contested regions where their tactical expertise and leadership abilities are essential for success. Shassel commanders frequently pilot the most advanced battlesuits available, including the formidable XV-8 crisis suits that serve as the backbone of Tau combined arms tactics. At the apex of Fire Caste hierarchy stand the Shasso, supreme commanders, whose authority extends across entire military campaigns or SEP defense networks. These legendary warriors have typically spent decades honing their skills and accumulating combat experience across multiple theaters of operation. Shasso commanders pilot the most sophisticated battlesuits in the Tau arsenal, including experimental designs that incorporate cutting-edge technology developed specifically for their use. The Earth Caste, designated as Fio in Tau language, emerged from the mountain-dwelling tribes whose members possessed natural aptitudes for construction, engineering, and technical innovation. Earth Caste society emphasizes methodical problem-solving, attention to detail, and the patient accumulation of knowledge through systematic experimentation and observation. These engineers and technicians form the industrial foundation of Tau civilization, responsible for everything from basic infrastructure maintenance to the development of revolutionary new technologies. Earth Caste workshops and research facilities represent marvels of organized efficiency, with every tool, component, and workspace arranged to maximize productivity while minimizing waste. Fio engineers approach their work with the same philosophical commitment to the greater good that motivates other castes, viewing each project as an opportunity to contribute to the collective advancement of Tau civilization. Their laboratories buzz with constant activity as teams of specialists collaborate on projects ranging from improved pulse weapon designs to more efficient fusion reactor configurations. The Earth Caste's approach to technological development emphasizes practical application over theoretical speculation. Fio engineers prefer to build and test prototypes rather than engage in abstract mathematical modeling, leading to rapid innovation cycles that can quickly translate new concepts into deployed systems. This methodology has produced remarkable advances in materials science, energy generation, and manufacturing techniques that give Tau technology its characteristic reliability and effectiveness. Earth Caste infrastructure projects demonstrate the same attention to integration and efficiency that characterizes all aspects of Tau society. Fio engineers design transportation networks that seamlessly connect different SEPT facilities while minimizing environmental impact, construct manufacturing centers that can rapidly shift production between different types of equipment as needs change, and establish communication systems that maintain constant contact between widely dispersed Tau settlements. The relationship between Earth Caste engineers and Fire Caste warriors exemplifies the cooperative principles of the Aun'Va in practical application. Theotechnicians work closely with Shah's warriors to understand the specific requirements and limitations of combat equipment, leading to continuous refinement of weapons, armor, and vehicles based on battlefield feedback. This collaboration has produced innovations like the modular battlesuit system that allows individual pilots to customize their equipment for specific mission requirements. The air caste, known as Corps in Tau terminology, evolved from coastal tribes whose members developed exceptional spatial awareness and navigation abilities through generations of maritime travel. Air caste pilots possess an intuitive understanding of three-dimensional movement that makes them naturally suited for operating aircraft and spacecraft in complex environments. Their role within Tau society extends far beyond simple transportation, encompassing reconnaissance, fire support, and the maintenance of communication links between widely separated Tau settlements. Physical adaptations distinguish air caste members from other Tau, reflecting generations of specialization for low-gravity environments and extended periods in aircraft cockpits. Corps pilots tend to be smaller and more lightly built than other Tau, with enhanced hand-eye coordination and faster reflexes that allow them to respond quickly to changing flight conditions. Their bone density is typically lower than ground-dwelling Tau, an adaptation that reduces their weight while maintaining sufficient strength for their specialized roles. Aircast training begins in early childhood with basic flight instruction using simple atmospheric craft, gradually progressing to more sophisticated vehicles as pilots demonstrate competence and dedication. Advanced Corps pilots eventually qualify for spacecraft operations, requiring additional training in void navigation, orbital mechanics, and the unique challenges of combat in three-dimensional space. The most skilled aircast pilots serve aboard the massive vessels that transport Tau expeditionary forces between star systems, navigating through the dangerous currents of the warp under the guidance of specially trained Earth Caste technicians. The integration of aircast capabilities with other Tau military assets creates combined arms formations that maximize the effectiveness of each component. Corps pilots provide real-time reconnaissance information to Fire-Caste ground forces, coordinate fire support missions using precision-guided munitions, and extract wounded warriors from contested areas using specialized medical evacuation aircraft. Their ability to rapidly redeploy forces across large distances allows Tau commanders to concentrate superior numbers at critical points, while maintaining the flexibility to respond to changing tactical situations. Aircast facilities reflect their unique operational requirements, with extensive flight training areas, maintenance workshops equipped with specialized tools for aircraft repair, and communication centers that coordinate traffic across entire SEPT airspace. Corps pilots spend considerable time in simulators that replicate various flight conditions and combat scenarios, allowing them to maintain proficiency without the expense and risk associated with constant live flight training. The water caste, designated Por in Tau language, originated from forest-dwelling tribes whose members developed exceptional communication skills and diplomatic abilities through their traditional role as intertribal mediators and traders. Water caste members serve as the social lubricant of Tau civilization, facilitating communication between different groups, negotiating agreements that benefit all parties, and gradually expanding the influence of the Aun'Va through patient persuasion rather than military conquest. Poor diplomats possess an almost supernatural ability to understand the motivations and concerns of other beings, whether Tau from different septs or alien species encountered during expansion operations. Their training emphasizes psychological insight, cultural analysis, and the subtle art of presenting Tau philosophy in terms that resonate with different audiences. Water caste negotiators can spend months studying a particular species or culture before attempting formal contact, developing comprehensive strategies for introducing Aun'Va concepts in ways that seem natural and beneficial rather than imposed from outside. The water caste's role in Tau expansion cannot be overstated, as their diplomatic efforts often eliminate the need for military intervention while creating lasting alliances that strengthen the empire as a whole. Poor agents work tirelessly to identify potential allies among alien populations, focusing on groups that share Tau values of cooperation, technological progress, and collective improvement. Their success in recruiting auxiliary forces has provided the Tau Empire with military capabilities that complement their own strengths, while compensating for numerical disadvantages against larger alien civilizations. Water caste commercial activities serve dual purposes, generating economic benefits for Tau society, while creating opportunities for cultural exchange and diplomatic contact. Poor traders establish trading posts in neutral territories where different species can interact safely, gradually building relationships that may eventually lead to formal alliance agreements. These commercial networks also provide valuable intelligence about alien military capabilities, political structures, and potential threats that might require fire caste intervention. The administrative functions of the water caste ensure smooth coordination between different Tau organizations and settlements. Poor bureaucrats maintain the communication networks that allow ethereal directives to reach every corner of Tau space, coordinate resource allocation between different septs based on changing needs and priorities, and manage the complex logistics required to support large-scale military operations across multiple star systems. Their work may lack the obvious drama of fire caste combat operations or earth caste technological breakthroughs, but it provides the organizational foundation that makes Tau expansion possible. Water caste training facilities emphasize practical experience in dealing with diverse populations and complex social situations. Poor students practice negotiation techniques using realistic scenarios based on actual diplomatic encounters, study the psychology and culture of various alien species, and learn to identify opportunities for advancing Tau interests through patient relationship building rather than aggressive confrontation. Advanced water caste operatives often specialize in particular types of diplomatic work, such as trade negotiations, military alliance discussions, or the delicate process of integrating newly contacted species into Tau society. The interaction between all four castes creates a synergistic effect that amplifies the capabilities of each individual component. Fire caste warriors provide security for water caste diplomatic missions, while poor negotiators work to minimize the need for military intervention through skillful diplomacy. Earth caste engineers develop the technological innovations that give Tau negotiators concrete benefits to offer potential allies, while air caste pilots provide the transportation and communication links that keep all Tau operations coordinated across vast distances. This integrated approach to expansion and governance represents the practical implementation of Aun'Va philosophy on a species-wide scale, demonstrating how cooperation and specialization can achieve results that would be impossible through individual effort alone. The emergence of the ethereal caste during the Mont'au period remains one of the most enigmatic events in Tau history, shrouded in mystery that even the most dedicated Earth caste historians have been unable to fully unravel. These tall, graceful beings appeared simultaneously across different continents of the Tau homeworld, arriving at settlements torn apart by generations of warfare, with a message of unity that transcended tribal boundaries and ancient grievances. Their physical appearance immediately distinguished them from other Tau, standing notably taller with more pronounced cranial ridges, elongated limbs, and skin that often displayed subtle variations in hue ranging from pale blue-gray to deeper indigo tones. What made the ethereals truly remarkable was not their distinctive appearance, but their unprecedented ability to inspire immediate loyalty and devotion in other Tau. Witnesses to early ethereal appearances described an almost hypnotic quality to their presence, as if their very proximity calmed aggressive impulses and opened minds to new possibilities. Warring tribal leaders who had spent decades locked in blood feuds found themselves setting aside weapons and listening intently to ethereal teachings about cooperation and collective purpose. This influence appeared to operate on multiple levels, combining rational philosophical arguments with what many imperial xenobiologists theorize might be sophisticated pheromone manipulation. The pheromone theory gained credence through careful observation of Ta'u behavior in the presence of ethereals. Ta'u from all castes display measurable physiological changes when interacting with members of the ethereal caste, including reduced stress hormone levels, increased production of neurotransmitters associated with social bonding, and enhanced cognitive receptivity to new ideas. These effects appear strongest during direct physical proximity, but can persist for extended periods after exposure, creating lasting behavioral modifications that reinforce ethereal authority and Aun'Va principles. The ethereal caste established a hierarchical structure that reflects both their philosophical teachings and practical governance requirements. At the foundation of this hierarchy stand the Aun'Shi, junior ethereals who typically serve as advisors to local sept administrators or accompany military expeditions to provide guidance on Aun'Va interpretation. These younger ethereals focus primarily on education and cultural reinforcement, working directly with members of other castes to ensure proper understanding of greater good principles in practical applications. Aun'Va represent the next tier of ethereal authority, experienced leaders who typically govern individual septs or coordinate multi-sept operations, requiring careful diplomatic balance. These ethereals possess decades of experience in applying Aun'Va philosophy to complex political and military situations, often serving as the final arbiters in disputes between different castes or competing sept interests. Aun'Va typically carry the traditional honor blade, an elegant weapon that serves both ceremonial and practical purposes, symbolizing their authority to make life and death decisions for the greater good. The Aun'Shi constitute the senior leadership of the ethereal caste, individuals whose authority extends across multiple septs and who play crucial roles in shaping empire-wide policy and strategic direction. These supreme leaders typically specialize in particular aspects of Ta'u governance, with some focusing on military strategy, others on technological development, and still others on diplomatic expansion. Aun'Shi decisions carry enormous weight throughout Ta'u society, as their pronouncements are viewed as definitive interpretations of Aun'Va principles that must be followed without question. At the apex of ethereal hierarchy stood Aun'Va, the master of the undying spirit, whose authority encompassed the entire Ta'u empire, and whose word was considered the ultimate expression of the greater good. Aun'Va's advanced age and accumulated wisdom made him the final arbiter of Ta'u policy, with even the most senior military commanders and sept leaders deferring to his judgment on matters of strategic importance. His death during the Third Sphere expansion created a significant leadership vacuum that required careful management to maintain empire unity and direction. The ethereal approach to military strategy crystallized into two fundamental doctrines that continue to guide Ta'u operations across all theaters of conflict. The Mont'au, or killing blow, emphasizes rapid, decisive action designed to achieve maximum impact through concentrated force applied at carefully selected critical points. This doctrine reflects Ta'u understanding that their numerical disadvantages against most alien species require them to achieve victory through superior tactics and technology rather than simple attrition. Mont'au operations typically begin with extensive reconnaissance and intelligence gathering, allowing Ta'u commanders to identify enemy weaknesses and critical infrastructure targets. Air caste pilots conduct detailed surveillance missions, while water caste agents gather information about enemy morale, supply lines, and command structures. Earth caste engineers analyze enemy defensive positions and develop specialized equipment for specific mission requirements. Only after this comprehensive preparation, Phase II fire caste forces launch their assault, striking with overwhelming firepower at precisely the right moment to achieve maximum psychological and tactical impact. The execution of Mont'au doctrine requires exceptional coordination between different Ta'u military assets. Crisis battlesuit teams provide mobile firepower and tactical flexibility, capable of rapidly redeploying to exploit emerging opportunities or respond to unexpected threats. Hammerhead gunships deliver precision strikes against heavily fortified positions, while Devilfish transports allow fire warrior teams to quickly occupy captured objectives. Air Caste fighters maintain air superiority and provide close support to ground forces, creating a seamless integration of different combat capabilities that maximizes the effectiveness of each component. The Kauyan, or patient hunter, represents the opposite approach to military operations, emphasizing careful preparation, methodical positioning, and the deliberate creation of tactical situations that force enemies into disadvantageous positions. This doctrine draws inspiration from traditional Tau hunting practices, where success depended more on understanding prey behavior and environmental conditions than on physical strength or speed. Kauyan operations can extend over weeks or months, with Tau forces gradually maneuvering their opponents into carefully prepared killing zones. Kauyan tactics typically involve the establishment of multiple overlapping fields of fire, with fire warrior teams positioned to provide mutual support while maintaining clear lines of retreat if the situation deteriorates. Earth Caste engineers construct sophisticated defensive positions that appear less formidable than they actually are, encouraging enemy attacks that will expose them to devastating crossfire. Pathfinder teams establish concealed observation posts that provide real-time intelligence about enemy movements while designating priority targets for long-range fire support. The psychological aspects of Kauyan doctrine are as important as the tactical elements, as Tau commanders work to create situations where enemies become frustrated, overconfident, or desperate enough to make tactical mistakes. Water Caste operatives may spread disinformation about Tau capabilities or intentions, leading opponents to deploy their forces in ways that play into Tau advantages. The patient application of pressure through limited engagements and strategic withdrawals can gradually erode enemy morale and cohesion, making them vulnerable to the decisive strike that concludes Kauyan operations. Both Mont'au and Kauyan doctrines reflect fundamental Aun'Va principles about achieving objectives through intelligent application of available resources, rather than wasteful expenditure of lives and equipment. Ethereal teachings emphasize that every Tau life has value that extends beyond immediate military utility, as each individual represents accumulated training, knowledge, and cultural investment that cannot be easily replaced. This philosophical foundation creates strong incentives for tactical innovation and technological development that can achieve military objectives while minimizing casualties among Tau forces. The philosophical underpinnings of the Aun'Va extend far beyond simple military doctrine, encompassing a comprehensive worldview that addresses individual purpose, collective responsibility, and the long-term development of Tau civilization. Ethereal teachings present the greater good not as an abstract ideal, but as a practical framework for making decisions that benefit both individuals and society as a whole. This philosophy recognizes that short-term sacrifices may be necessary for long-term prosperity, but emphasizes that such sacrifices should be distributed fairly and undertaken voluntarily by those who understand their necessity. Central to Aun'Va philosophy is the concept that individual fulfillment comes through contributing to collective advancement rather than through personal aggrandizement or competitive dominance over others. Ethereals teach that each Tau possesses unique talents and perspectives that can benefit the entire species, but only if those abilities are developed and applied in coordination with others rather than in isolation. This principle creates strong incentives for cooperation and mutual support, while discouraging the kind of internal competition that might weaken Tau society from within. The ethereal interpretation of Aun'Va also addresses the complex question of how to interact with alien species encountered during expansion operations. Rather than viewing all non-Tau as inherent enemies or potential slaves, ethereal teachings suggest that other species may possess valuable knowledge, capabilities, or perspectives that could benefit the greater good if properly integrated into Tau society. This philosophical framework provides the foundation for Tau diplomatic efforts and explains their willingness to accept alien auxiliaries as genuine partners rather than mere tools. The practical application of Aun'Va principles requires constant interpretation and adaptation as Tau society encounters new situations and challenges. Ethereals serve as the ultimate arbiters of these interpretations, providing guidance that maintains philosophical consistency while allowing for tactical and strategic flexibility. Their decisions establish precedents that guide future actions, gradually building a comprehensive body of applied philosophy that addresses everything from resource allocation between septs to the treatment of captured enemies. Ethereal authority over Tau society operates through multiple mechanisms that reinforce each other to create a stable and unified power structure. Their natural charisma and apparent pheromone influence provide immediate psychological reinforcement for their decisions, while their role as the original teachers of Aun'Va philosophy gives them unquestioned moral authority. The practical success of ethereal guidance in ending the Mont'au and creating Tau civilization provides empirical validation for their leadership, while the hierarchical structure of Tau society ensures that ethereal directives are transmitted efficiently throughout the empire. The integration of ethereal guidance with the specialized expertise of other castes creates a governance system that combines philosophical consistency with technical competence. Fire caste commanders provide military expertise and tactical recommendations, but ethereals make the final decisions about when and how to employ military force. Earth caste engineers develop new technologies and propose infrastructure projects, but ethereals determine which innovations align with Aun'Va principles and deserve resource allocation. Water caste diplomats conduct negotiations and gather intelligence, but ethereals establish the strategic objectives and acceptable parameters for diplomatic agreements. This system of distributed expertise under unified philosophical guidance has proven remarkably effective at maintaining Tau unity and purpose across an expanding interstellar empire. Sept leaders separated by hundreds of light years can make decisions that complement rather than conflict with each other because they all operate within the same philosophical framework established by ethereal teachings. Military commanders can coordinate complex operations involving multiple septs because they share common doctrinal foundations and strategic objectives. The result is an empire that maintains coherent identity and purpose despite its rapid expansion and increasing diversity of challenges and opportunities. The technological supremacy that defines Tau military doctrine begins with their mastery of pulse technology, a directed energy weapons system that represents the culmination of millennia of Earth caste innovation and fire caste battlefield experience. Unlike the crude projectile weapons favored by many alien species, pulse technology harnesses controlled plasma discharges to deliver devastating kinetic and thermal energy with surgical precision. The fundamental principle underlying all pulse weapons involves the magnetic containment and acceleration of superheated plasma through precisely calibrated field generators, creating coherent energy bursts that maintain their destructive potential across extended ranges while minimizing collateral damage to surrounding structures and personnel. The basic pulse rifle carried by fire caste warriors demonstrates the elegance and effectiveness of Tau weapons design philosophy. Each rifle incorporates a compact fusion cell that provides sufficient power for hundreds of shots without requiring external power sources or cumbersome ammunition supplies. The weapon's internal mechanisms channel plasma through a series of magnetic acceleration chambers that impart tremendous velocity to each pulse while maintaining tight beam coherence over distances exceeding several kilometers. The rifle's integrated targeting system links directly to the warrior's helmet display, providing real-time ballistic calculations and threat assessment data that allows even inexperienced Shasla to engage targets with devastating accuracy. The modular design of pulse rifles reflects Tau commitment to adaptability and continuous improvement. Earth caste engineers developed standardized attachment points that allow field modifications using various accessories, including enhanced targeting scopes for long-range engagements, underslung photon grenades for close-quarters combat, and specialized pulse ammunition designed for specific target types. Fire Caste armorers can rapidly reconfigure weapons between missions, ensuring that each warrior carries equipment optimized for anticipated combat conditions without requiring extensive retraining or logistical complications. Advanced pulse weapon variants demonstrate the scalability of Tau energy weapon technology across different tactical applications. The pulse carbine favored by Pathfinder teams trades some range and penetrating power for improved handling characteristics and reduced weight, making it ideal for reconnaissance units that must remain mobile while maintaining effective firepower. The pulse pistol provides Fire Caste officers with a compact sidearm that delivers lethal stopping power in emergency situations, while specialized pulse weapons like the rail rifle combine pulse technology with magnetic acceleration principles to create devastating anti-armor capabilities. The progression from individual pulse weapons to squad-level support systems illustrates Tau understanding of combined arms principles and their commitment to providing Fire Caste warriors with overwhelming firepower advantages. Pulse cannon systems mounted on heavy weapon platforms deliver sustained high-energy bombardment capable of destroying enemy vehicles and fortifications while maintaining the precision characteristics that define all Tau weapons. These weapons incorporate sophisticated cooling systems and power management protocols that allow continuous operation during extended engagements without the overheating problems that plague many alien energy weapons. The integration of pulse technology with Tau battlesuit systems represents perhaps the most significant advancement in personal combat equipment since the development of powered armor. Crisis battlesuits mount multiple pulse weapons in configurations that would be impossible for unaugmented warriors to carry, creating mobile fire platforms capable of engaging multiple targets simultaneously while maintaining tactical mobility. The suit's targeting systems coordinate fire from different weapons to maximize damage output while conserving ammunition, automatically prioritizing threats based on tactical doctrine and battlefield conditions. Battlesuit technology emerged from Earth Caste recognition that individual Tau warriors, despite their training and discipline, faced significant physical disadvantages when confronting larger alien species in direct combat. The first battlesuit prototypes were crude affairs that provided basic protection and modest strength enhancement, but they established the fundamental design principles that continue to guide Tau battlesuit development. Modern battlesuits represent sophisticated integration of advanced materials, artificial intelligence systems, and weapons technology that transforms individual warriors into formidable combat platforms capable of engaging entire enemy units. The XV-15 stealth suit represents the lightest and most specialized battlesuit variant, designed specifically for reconnaissance and infiltration missions where detection would compromise the entire operation. These suits incorporate advanced stealth field generators that bend light around the wearer, creating near invisibility that allows Pathfinder teams to operate deep within enemy territory without detection. The stealth fields require significant power to maintain, limiting the suit's weapons loadout to burst cannons and marker lights, but the tactical intelligence gathered by stealth suit operators often proves more valuable than direct combat contributions. Stealth suit technology relies on sophisticated metamaterial composites that can actively manipulate electromagnetic radiation across multiple spectrums. The suit's outer shell incorporates millions of microscopic elements that can be individually controlled to redirect incoming light, heat signatures, and even radar pulses around the wearer's position. This technology requires constant adjustment based on environmental conditions and observer positions, demanding advanced artificial intelligence systems that can process sensor data and adjust stealth field parameters in real time without conscious input from the pilot. The XV-25 stealth suit represents an evolution of the basic stealth concept, incorporating improved power systems and enhanced weapons capabilities while maintaining the invisibility characteristics that make these units so effective. These suits can mount more sophisticated sensor packages and heavier weapons, allowing stealth teams to conduct limited combat operations while maintaining their primary reconnaissance role. The improved power systems extend operational duration and enable more aggressive stealth field manipulation, creating temporary invisibility effects that can confuse enemies even during active combat. Crisis battlesuits designated XV-8 form the backbone of Tau Combined Arms Doctrine, providing the perfect balance of firepower, protection, and mobility that defines Tau tactical philosophy. These medium-weight suits allow experienced fire caste veterans to engage enemy forces with devastating effectiveness while maintaining the tactical flexibility necessary for rapid redeployment based on changing battlefield conditions. The modular weapon systems enable customization for specific mission requirements, with pilots able to mount combinations of pulse rifles, plasma rifles, fusion blasters, and missile pods depending on anticipated threats and tactical objectives. The XV-8 design philosophy emphasizes pilot integration rather than simple mechanical enhancement, requiring extensive training to achieve effective coordination between warrior instincts and suit capabilities. The neural interface systems allow experienced pilots to control weapons targeting, movement, and defensive systems through thought impulses, creating reaction times that approach those of unaugmented warriors while providing vastly superior firepower and protection. This integration becomes so complete that veteran pilots often describe their suits as extensions of their own bodies rather than separate pieces of equipment. Advanced crisis suit variants demonstrate Tau commitment to continuous technological improvement and battlefield adaptation. The XV-8-2 Crisis Iridium suit incorporates experimental armor materials that provide enhanced protection against enemy heavy weapons, while specialized sensor packages allow pilots to coordinate fire support missions and battlefield intelligence gathering. Commander variants designated XV-85 and XV-86 include sophisticated command and control systems that enable senior officers to coordinate entire battle groups while maintaining personal combat effectiveness. The XV-88 broadside battlesuit represents Tau dedication to long-range fire support and anti-armor warfare, mounting heavy rail rifles and high-yield missile systems that can engage enemy vehicles and fortifications at extreme distances. These suits sacrifice mobility for firepower, serving as mobile artillery platforms that provide devastating fire support for advancing fire warrior teams. The rail rifle technology incorporated into broadside suits represents the pinnacle of Tau magnetic acceleration weapons, capable of penetrating the heaviest enemy armor through sheer kinetic energy transfer. Broadside suit operations require careful coordination with other Tau forces to maximize effectiveness while minimizing vulnerability to enemy counterattacks. The suit's heavy weapons create distinctive energy signatures that enemy forces can detect and target, making concealment and fire position management critical tactical considerations. Earth-Caste engineers develop specialized deployment protocols that allow broadside teams to establish firing positions, deliver devastating bombardment, and relocate before enemy forces can organize effective responses. The XV-104 Riptide represents the current pinnacle of Tau battlesuit technology, incorporating experimental systems that push the boundaries of what individual warriors can effectively control. These massive suits mount weapon systems typically reserved for vehicles, including ion accelerator cannons and heavy burst cannons that can devastate entire enemy formations. The Riptide's advanced reactor systems provide sufficient power for sustained combat operations, while sophisticated stabilization systems allow accurate fire even while moving at high speed across difficult terrain. Riptide operations require pilots with exceptional skill and experience, as the suit's massive size and complex systems demand split-second decision-making under extreme stress. The neural interface systems provide unprecedented integration between pilot and machine, but the cognitive load of controlling such sophisticated equipment can overwhelm inexperienced operators. Only the most elite fire caste veterans qualify for Riptide training, and even these warriors require months of preparation before achieving combat readiness. The development of artificial intelligence systems and drone technology represents another crucial aspect of Tau military innovation, providing force multiplication capabilities that help compensate for numerical disadvantages against larger alien civilizations. Tau drones operate under sophisticated AI protocols that enable autonomous operation while maintaining coordination with organic commanders and adherence to Aun'Va principles regarding proportional response and civilian protection. These systems represent Caste mastery of machine intelligence without the dangerous unpredictability that characterizes AI systems developed by other species. Gun drones provide basic fire support and reconnaissance capabilities, mounting twin pulse carbines and advanced sensor packages that allow them to operate independently or in coordination with fire warrior teams. The drone's compact size and advanced maneuverability enable them to access positions impossible for larger units, providing covering fire and tactical intelligence that significantly enhances fire cast effectiveness. Their AI systems include sophisticated target recognition protocols that prevent friendly fire incidents while ensuring aggressive engagement of legitimate threats. Shield drones incorporate advanced defensive field generators that can project protective barriers around friendly units, absorbing incoming fire and deflecting explosive attacks. These systems require tremendous power to maintain, limiting operational duration, but they provide crucial protection during critical phases of combat operations. The shield generators can be overloaded to create temporary area denial effects, generating electromagnetic pulses that disable enemy electronics while providing cover for Tau withdrawals or repositioning maneuvers. Marker drones serve as forward observers and target designation platforms, using sophisticated sensor arrays to identify priority targets and coordinate fire support missions. Their advanced targeting systems can penetrate enemy camouflage and electronic countermeasures, providing accurate target data that enables precision strikes from long-range weapons platforms. The drone's ability to operate in hazardous environments allows them to maintain observation posts in areas too dangerous for organic personnel, extending Tau reconnaissance capabilities across entire battlefields. The integration of drone technology with other Tau military systems creates synergistic effects that multiply the effectiveness of individual components. Crisis battlesuits accompanied by gun drones can engage multiple targets simultaneously while maintaining tactical mobility, effectively doubling their combat effectiveness without requiring additional pilots. Shield drones protecting fire warrior teams enable aggressive tactical positioning that would otherwise be impossible, allowing Tau forces to establish firing positions in areas with limited natural cover. Advanced targeting systems represent perhaps the most crucial technological advantage that Tau forces possess over their enemies, enabling precision engagement of targets at extreme ranges while minimizing ammunition expenditure and collateral damage. These systems incorporate multiple sensor types including optical, thermal, electromagnetic, and gravitic detectors that can identify and track targets under virtually any environmental conditions. The integration of artificial intelligence analysis with organic decision-making creates targeting solutions that combine machine precision with tactical intuition. The Tau approach to warfare doctrine emphasizes ranged superiority through technological advantage rather than numerical superiority or individual physical prowess. Firecast training focuses extensively on marksmanship, tactical positioning, and coordination with supporting elements to create overlapping fields of fire that deny enemy forces the opportunity to close to effective engagement ranges. This doctrine recognizes Tau physical limitations compared to species like orcs or space marines, while leveraging their technological advantages and superior tactical coordination. Combined arms tactics represent the practical implementation of Tau warfare philosophy, integrating different types of units and weapon systems to create tactical formations that are more effective than the sum of their individual components. Fire warrior teams provide basic infantry capabilities and objective control, while crisis battlesuits deliver mobile firepower and tactical flexibility. Hammerhead gunships and broadside battlesuits provide long-range fire support, while Pathfinder teams conduct reconnaissance and target designation. Air Caste fighters maintain air superiority and provide close support, creating seamless integration of ground and air assets. The Tau preference for avoiding close combat reflects both practical considerations and philosophical principles embedded in Tau'va teachings. Close combat negates many Tau technological advantages while exposing their physical limitations compared to larger, stronger alien species. More importantly, close combat typically results in higher casualties on both sides, conflicting with Tau principles regarding proportional response and the preservation of life whenever possible. Tau tactical doctrine emphasizes creating situations where enemies are forced to advance across open ground under devastating fire, eliminating threats before they can engage in melee combat. The systematic expansion of Tau civilization beyond their homeworld began in earnest during the 37th millennium, with what would later be designated the First Sphere expansion. This monumental undertaking represented the practical application of Tau'va philosophy on an interstellar scale, as the unified Tau Empire sought to extend the benefits of the greater good to suitable worlds within their local stellar neighborhood. The expansion was not a haphazard scramble for territory, but rather a carefully planned colonization effort that prioritized worlds with strategic value, natural resources, and environmental conditions suitable for Tau habitation. The selection criteria for First Sphere worlds reflected Tau understanding of sustainable expansion principles. Earth Caste survey teams conducted extensive reconnaissance missions to identify planets with stable climates, adequate water resources, and mineral deposits necessary for industrial development. Air Caste navigators mapped safe transit routes between candidate worlds, establishing the foundation for the interstellar transportation network that would support future expansion efforts. Water Caste analysts evaluated each world's potential for supporting Tau population growth while maintaining ecological balance, ensuring that colonization efforts would create lasting settlements rather than temporary resource extraction operations. Viorla emerged as one of the most significant Sept worlds established during the First Sphere expansion, chosen for its exceptional strategic position and natural defensive advantages. The world's twin suns created unique atmospheric conditions that challenged Tau adaptation capabilities while providing abundant solar energy for industrial applications. Viorla's surface featured vast desert regions broken by mountain ranges and scattered oasis settlements, requiring innovative approaches to water management and urban planning that pushed Earth Caste engineering capabilities to new limits. The colonization of Viorla demonstrated Tau commitment to working with rather than against natural environmental conditions. Earth Caste engineers designed settlement patterns that took advantage of natural wind patterns and thermal cycles, creating cities that required minimal artificial climate control while maximizing energy efficiency. The distinctive architecture of Viorla settlements incorporated advanced materials that could withstand extreme temperature variations while reflecting excess heat during the day and retaining warmth during cooler periods. Viorla's harsh environment produced fire caste warriors renowned throughout the Tau Empire for their exceptional endurance and tactical adaptability. The constant environmental challenges forced Viorla fire warriors to develop innovative training regimens and equipment modifications that enhanced their effectiveness in extreme conditions. These warriors became specialists in desert warfare and high-temperature operations, skills that proved invaluable during subsequent expansion efforts into similarly challenging environments. The Sept's industrial development focused on specialized manufacturing capabilities that took advantage of abundant solar energy and unique mineral deposits found in the planet's desert regions. Viorla factories became centers for advanced materials research, developing new alloys and composite materials that could withstand extreme environmental conditions while maintaining the precision characteristics required for Tau technology. The SEP's research facilities also pioneered improvements in fusion reactor efficiency and energy storage systems that benefited the entire Tau Empire. Sassia represented another crucial sept established during the First Sphere expansion, selected for its ideal environmental conditions and potential for supporting large-scale population growth. The world's temperate climate and abundant natural resources made it an obvious choice for major urban development, while its strategic position provided excellent access to multiple expansion routes for future colonization efforts. Sassia's surface featured extensive continents with diverse biomes ranging from temperate forests to fertile grasslands, providing opportunities for comprehensive terraforming and agricultural development. The development of Sassia showcased Tau mastery of integrated urban planning and environmental management. Caste engineers created cities that seamlessly blended with natural landscapes, incorporating living systems into architectural designs that enhanced rather than disrupted local ecosystems. The SEP's transportation networks utilized advanced magnetic levitation systems that eliminated ground-level pollution while providing rapid transit between widely separated urban centers. Sassia's educational institutions became legendary throughout the Tau Empire for their comprehensive training programs and innovative teaching methods. The SEP's academies attracted students from across Tau's space, offering specialized curricula that combined theoretical knowledge with practical application in real-world environments. Caste military academies on Sassia developed advanced tactical doctrines that influenced Tau military thinking for generations, while Caste technical institutes pioneered new approaches to engineering education that emphasized creative problem-solving and interdisciplinary collaboration. The SEP's cultural influence extended far beyond its educational institutions, as Sassia artists and philosophers contributed significantly to the ongoing development of Tau'va interpretation and application. The world's libraries and research centers maintained comprehensive archives of Tau knowledge and cultural achievements, serving as repositories for the collective wisdom of the expanding empire. Sassia's communication networks became central hubs for information exchange between different septs, facilitating coordination and knowledge sharing across vast interstellar distances. Borkin emerged as the technological heart of the First Sphere expansion, chosen specifically for its potential to support advanced research and development activities. The world's unique geological features included rare mineral deposits essential for cutting-edge technology development, while its stable climate and low seismic activity provided ideal conditions for sensitive scientific equipment and precision manufacturing. Borkin's surface featured extensive mountain ranges rich in exotic materials, surrounded by valleys suitable for large-scale industrial complexes and research facilities. The SEP's research institutions pushed the boundaries of Tau technological capability, developing innovations that revolutionized everything from weapons systems to interstellar transportation. Borkin Caste engineers pioneered advances in pulse weapon technology that increased range and accuracy while reducing power consumption, creating the foundation for next-generation military equipment. The SEP's laboratories also developed breakthrough improvements in battlesuit design, including enhanced neural interface systems and more efficient power distribution networks. Borkin's manufacturing capabilities focused on producing the most sophisticated equipment in the Tau arsenal, including experimental weapon systems and prototype technologies that required exceptional precision and quality control. The SEP's factories incorporated advanced automation systems that could maintain tolerances measured in microscopic units while producing complex components at industrial scales. These manufacturing techniques enabled the production of equipment that would have been impossible using conventional methods, giving Tau forces significant technological advantages over their enemies. The SEP's scientific community maintained extensive collaboration networks with research institutions throughout the Tau Empire, sharing discoveries and coordinating research efforts to maximize the benefits of technological advancement. Borkan scientists pioneered new approaches to materials science, energy generation, and artificial intelligence that influenced Tau development for centuries. The Sept's theoretical physicists made crucial contributions to understanding the fundamental forces that govern interstellar travel, laying the groundwork for future expansion efforts. The second sphere expansion began several centuries after the successful establishment of the core Sept worlds, representing Tau confidence in their ability to manage large-scale colonization efforts while maintaining the unity and purpose that defined their civilization. This expansion phase focused on pushing Tau influence into the Damocles Gulf region, a strategically important area that offered access to new resources and potential alien contact opportunities. The planning for this expansion incorporated lessons learned from the first sphere, emphasizing more rapid deployment and flexible colonization strategies that could adapt to unexpected challenges. The Damocles Gulf presented unique opportunities and challenges that tested Tau adaptability and technological capabilities. The region's stellar geography featured numerous systems with potentially habitable worlds, but many of these systems also contained evidence of previous alien occupation or ongoing conflicts between different species. Tau expansion into this region required careful balance between aggressive colonization and diplomatic caution, as premature military action could trigger conflicts that would drain resources needed for peaceful development. Kelshan emerged as one of the most important frontier septs established during the Second Sphere expansion, chosen for its strategic position and defensive potential despite significant environmental challenges. The world's volcanic activity created a harsh surface environment that required innovative approaches to settlement design and resource extraction. Kelshan cities were built into mountainsides and underground complexes that provided protection from seismic activity while taking advantage of geothermal energy sources for power generation and industrial processes. The Sept's unique environment produced fire caste warriors with exceptional skills in underground combat and siege warfare. Kelshan fire warriors developed specialized equipment and tactics for fighting in confined spaces and hazardous environments, including modified pulse weapons designed for close quarters combat and advanced environmental suits that could operate in extreme conditions. These capabilities proved invaluable during subsequent conflicts with alien species that favored defensive strategies and fortified positions. Kelshan's industrial development focused on heavy manufacturing and resource extraction, taking advantage of the world's abundant mineral wealth and geothermal energy. The Sept's factories specialized in producing heavy equipment and construction materials needed for expansion efforts, while its mining operations extracted rare elements essential for advanced technology development. The harsh working conditions on Kelshan drove innovation in automated systems and remote-controlled equipment that reduced the need for Tau personnel in dangerous environments. Elsier represented another significant frontier sept established during the Second Sphere expansion, selected for its potential as a forward base for further expansion efforts. The world's position near the edge of Tau space made it an ideal staging area for reconnaissance missions and diplomatic contact with alien species, while its moderate climate and natural resources supported substantial population growth. Elsier's surface featured diverse biomes that provided opportunities for comprehensive terraforming experiments and agricultural development programs. The Sept's role as a frontier outpost required exceptional flexibility and self-sufficiency, as supply lines from core Tau worlds could be disrupted by enemy action or natural disasters. Elsier developed comprehensive manufacturing capabilities that could produce everything from basic consumer goods to sophisticated military equipment, ensuring that the Sept could maintain operations even during extended isolation. The world's research facilities focused on developing technologies specifically suited for frontier conditions, including improved communication systems and more efficient resource utilization methods. Elsier's cultural development reflected its position as a meeting point between established Tau civilization and the unknown challenges of unexplored space. The SEP's educational institutions emphasized adaptability and creative problem solving, preparing students for careers that might require them to operate in unpredictable environments with limited resources. The world's artists and philosophers explored themes related to expansion and discovery, contributing to ongoing discussions about Aun'Va application in frontier situations. The Third Sphere expansion began in the wake of the Great Rift's opening, a catastrophic event that fundamentally altered the strategic situation throughout the galaxy. The massive warp storm that split the galaxy in half created new opportunities for Tau expansion, while simultaneously presenting unprecedented challenges that tested every aspect of Tau civilization. The expansion planning incorporated hard-won knowledge from previous efforts, while adapting to the dramatically changed galactic environment that emerged after the Rift's formation. The opening of the Great Rift disrupted established warp routes and created new navigational hazards that required innovative approaches to interstellar travel. Caste navigators worked closely with Caste technicians to develop new navigation techniques that could safely traverse the altered warp currents, while Caste analysts evaluated the political implications of the galaxy's division. The Rift's effects on alien civilizations created opportunities for diplomatic contact and potential alliance building, as many species found themselves isolated from their previous power structures and more receptive to Tau offers of cooperation. The colonization efforts beyond the Star-eyed Nexus represented the most ambitious expansion project in Tau history, pushing their civilization into regions of space that had never before been explored by any known species. These worlds offered tremendous potential for resource extraction and population growth, but they also presented unique challenges that required innovative solutions and unprecedented cooperation between different castes. The distance from established Tau worlds meant that new colonies had to achieve self-sufficiency more rapidly than previous expansion efforts, driving technological development and organizational innovation. The establishment of colonies beyond the Star-eyed Nexus demonstrated Tau mastery of advanced terraforming techniques and closed-loop ecological systems. Caste engineers developed sophisticated atmospheric processors that could transform marginal worlds into habitable environments within decades rather than centuries, while biological specialists created integrated ecosystems that could support Tau populations without requiring constant external inputs. These achievements represented the culmination of centuries of scientific development and practical experience gained through previous expansion efforts. The Fourth Sphere expansion began with tremendous optimism and ambitious goals, representing Tau confidence in their ability to overcome any obstacle through technological innovation and philosophical unity. The expansion fleet assembled for this effort included the most advanced ships and equipment available, along with carefully selected personnel representing the best of each caste. The fleet's mission parameters included establishing new colonies in strategically important regions while conducting comprehensive surveys of previously unexplored space. The tragic fate of the Fourth Sphere fleet in the warp became one of the most significant disasters in Tau history, demonstrating the limitations of even the most advanced technology when confronted with the chaotic forces that govern interstellar travel. The fleet's entry into warp space proceeded normally according to all available sensor data, but something went catastrophically wrong during the transit that resulted in the apparent destruction or disappearance of the entire expedition. The loss of so many experienced personnel and advanced equipment represented a devastating blow to Tau expansion capabilities. The discovery of the Star-eyed Nexus emerged from desperate attempts to locate survivors from the Fourth Sphere fleet, as search and rescue operations pushed Tau exploration capabilities to their absolute limits. Caste navigators detected unusual warp current patterns that suggested the presence of a stable passage through otherwise impassable regions of space, leading to the identification of what appeared to be a natural phenomenon that could facilitate safe interstellar travel. The Nexus represented a potential solution to the navigation challenges that had plagued Tau expansion efforts, offering access to previously unreachable regions of space. The investigation of the star-dyed Nexus revealed complex interactions between natural warp currents and artificial structures of unknown origin, suggesting that some ancient civilization had modified the local space-time geometry to create stable transit routes. Earth Caste scientists worked tirelessly to understand the principles underlying the Nexus's operation, while Water Caste analysts evaluated the political and strategic implications of this discovery. The Nexus offered tremendous opportunities for future expansion, but it also raised disturbing questions about the fate of its original creators and the potential dangers of relying on technology that Tau science could not fully comprehend. The establishment of distinct sept worlds during the Tau expansion phases created specialized centers of excellence that became the backbone of the Empire's military, technological, and cultural development. Each sept developed unique characteristics shaped by their environmental conditions, strategic importance, and the particular challenges they faced during colonization. These worlds evolved beyond simple colonies to become integral components of the Tau war machine, each contributing specialized capabilities that enhance the Empire's overall effectiveness while maintaining the philosophical unity that defined Tau civilization. Viorla Sept stands as perhaps the most aggressive and militaristic of all Tau worlds, earning its designation as the hot-blooded through the exceptional martial prowess of its fire caste warriors. The twin suns that dominate Viorla's sky create surface temperatures that regularly exceed the tolerance levels of most Tau, forging inhabitants who possess exceptional endurance and resistance to environmental extremes. The constant heat and intense solar radiation have shaped every aspect of life on Viorla, from the distinctive red-orange coloration of its city's thermal-resistant architecture to the modified cooling systems integrated into standard fire warrior armor worn by the Sept's military forces. The harsh environment of Viorla has produced fire caste warriors whose training regimens exceed even the demanding standards typical of Tau military preparation. Viorla fire warriors routinely conduct combat exercises during the planet's brutal midday periods, when surface temperatures can reach levels that would incapacitate fighters from other septs within minutes. This extreme conditioning creates warriors capable of maintaining peak combat effectiveness in environments that would severely degrade the performance of less prepared forces, making Viorla units particularly valuable for operations on desert worlds or industrial facilities with high ambient temperatures. The Sept's military academies have developed specialized combat doctrines that emphasize aggressive tactics and rapid decisive action, reflecting the impatient temperament that characterizes many Viorla inhabitants. Unlike the patient, methodical approaches favored by other septs, Viorla tactical doctrine prioritizes overwhelming initial assaults designed to shatter enemy resistance before prolonged engagements can develop. This philosophy has produced some of the most effective shock assault units in the Tau military, capable of breaking enemy defensive positions through sheer audacity and superior firepower concentration. Viorla's industrial complexes specialize in manufacturing equipment designed for extreme environmental conditions, including modified pulse weapons with enhanced cooling systems and battlesuit variants equipped with advanced thermal management capabilities. The Sept's Earth Caste engineers have pioneered innovations in heat-resistant materials and energy-efficient cooling technologies that benefit military operations throughout the Empire. These manufacturing capabilities have made Viorla a crucial supplier of specialized equipment for Tau forces operating in hostile environments across multiple theaters of conflict. The Sept achieved particular renown as the birthplace of Commander Shasera, known throughout the Empire as Commander Shadowsun, whose tactical innovations revolutionized Tau's stealth warfare and combined arms doctrine. However, Viorla's most controversial contribution to Tau military history came through Commander Farsight, whose exceptional leadership abilities and unorthodox tactical thinking made him one of the most successful fire caste commanders in the Empire's history. Farsight's early career demonstrated the aggressive spirit and tactical innovation that characterized V'Orla military culture, as he consistently achieved victory against numerically superior enemies through bold strategic decisions and personal leadership that inspired absolute loyalty among his subordinates. The development of Farsight's military philosophy reflected the influence of V'Orla's martial culture, emphasizing personal honor, aggressive action, and unwavering commitment to protecting Tau lives even when such protection required challenging established doctrine. His campaigns on the Eastern Fringe demonstrated the effectiveness of V'Orla tactical approaches when applied by a commander with exceptional strategic vision and the courage to adapt established doctrine to meet unexpected challenges. Farsight's ability to inspire fierce loyalty among his troops stemmed partly from his embodiment of V'Orla ideals regarding personal courage and dedication to the greater good. The tragic schism that eventually separated Farsight from the main Tau Empire originated in philosophical differences regarding the interpretation of Aun'Va principles and the proper relationship between individual conscience and institutional authority. Farsight's experiences fighting chaos forces and other threats on the Eastern Fringe led him to question certain aspects of ethereal guidance, particularly regarding the use of alien technology and the appropriate response to existential threats facing Tau civilization. His decision to establish the Farsight enclaves represented a fundamental challenge to Tau unity that continues to influence political and military thinking throughout the Empire. Tau Sept remains the spiritual and political heart of the Tau Empire, serving as the original homeworld where the ethereals first appeared to unite the warring tribes under the banner of the greater good. The planet's significance extends far beyond its historical importance, as it continues to house the supreme leadership of the ethereal caste and serves as the ultimate authority for all major policy decisions affecting the entire empire. The world cities represent the pinnacle of Tau urban planning and architectural achievement, featuring integrated designs that seamlessly blend governmental, educational, and residential functions while maintaining the aesthetic harmony that characterizes Tau civilization. The capital city of Tau Sept showcases the sophisticated integration of all four castes working in perfect harmony toward common objectives. Fire caste training facilities occupy strategic positions that provide security for government installations, while offering realistic urban combat training environments. Earth caste workshops and laboratories are distributed throughout the city in patterns that maximize efficiency while minimizing transportation costs and environmental impact. Air caste facilities include orbital elevators and atmospheric traffic control centers that coordinate movement throughout the system, while water caste administrative centers maintain the communication networks that keep the entire empire functioning as a unified entity. The Ethereal Supreme's residence and primary governmental complex occupies the most prominent position in the capital, featuring architecture that combines practical functionality with symbolic representation of Aun'Va principles. The building's design incorporates elements representing each of the four castes, with flowing lines and integrated natural elements that emphasize harmony and balance. The complex includes extensive meeting facilities where representatives from across the empire gather to discuss policy matters and coordinate large-scale operations, along with private chambers where the Ethereal Supreme can contemplate the philosophical implications of major decisions. Tau Sept's educational institutions serve as the primary centers for advanced philosophical and theoretical study throughout the empire, attracting the most promising students from all septs and castes. These academies focus on developing deep understanding of Aun'Va principles and their application to complex real-world situations, preparing graduates for leadership positions that require both technical competence and philosophical wisdom. The planet's libraries maintain comprehensive archives of Tau knowledge and cultural achievements, serving as repositories for the collective wisdom accumulated through centuries of expansion and development. The SEP's manufacturing capabilities focus on producing the highest quality equipment and materials used by government and military leadership, including ceremonial items that reflect Tau artistic achievement, alongside functional equipment that meets the demanding requirements of senior commanders and administrators. Tau Sept factories specialize in precision manufacturing techniques that create products meeting exacting specifications while incorporating aesthetic elements that demonstrate Tau cultural sophistication. These manufacturing facilities also serve as testing grounds for new production techniques and quality control methods that are subsequently implemented throughout the Empire. The planet's strategic importance as the Empire's capital requires extensive defensive preparations that showcase the most advanced military technologies and tactics available to Tau forces. Tau Sept's defensive networks include orbital platforms equipped with the most powerful weapons in the Tau arsenal, along with ground-based installations that can coordinate defensive operations across the entire system. The Sept's Fire Caste garrison includes elite units drawn from across the Empire, creating a military force that represents the pinnacle of Tau martial achievement, while serving as a practical demonstration of inter-Sept cooperation and unity. Sept has earned recognition throughout the Tau Empire as the premier center for military education and training, producing Fire Caste officers whose tactical expertise and leadership abilities have shaped Tau military doctrine for generations. The Sept's temperate climate and diverse terrain provide ideal conditions for comprehensive military training programs that can simulate virtually any environmental condition Tau forces might encounter during expansion operations. Sassia's military academies have developed sophisticated training methodologies that combine theoretical instruction with practical field exercises, creating educational programs that produce officers capable of adapting established doctrine to meet unexpected challenges. The Sept's military academies feature extensive training facilities that replicate various combat environments, from urban warfare complexes that simulate fighting in alien cities to wilderness areas that provide realistic training for operations on unexplored worlds. These facilities incorporate advanced holographic systems and robotic opponents that can present training scenarios of unprecedented realism while maintaining complete safety for participating personnel. Sassia instructors have developed training programs that challenge students to think creatively and adapt quickly to changing circumstances, producing officers who can maintain effectiveness even when facing completely unfamiliar tactical situations. Sassia's reputation for producing exceptional Pathfinder teams stems from the Sept's emphasis on reconnaissance training and advanced technology integration. The planet's varied terrain provides opportunities for realistic infiltration and surveillance exercises, while its research facilities develop cutting-edge equipment specifically designed for reconnaissance operations. Sassia Pathfinder teams are renowned for their ability to operate independently in hostile territory for extended periods while maintaining communication with command elements and providing accurate intelligence about enemy positions and capabilities. The Sept's military doctrine emphasizes combined arms coordination and inter-unit cooperation, reflecting Sassia's role as a training ground where personnel from different Septs learn to work together effectively. Sassia exercises regularly involve mixed units drawn from multiple Septs, creating opportunities for cross-training and the development of standardized procedures that enhance cooperation during actual combat operations. These training programs have produced many of the most successful multi-Sept operations in Tau military history, demonstrating the practical value of Sassia's educational approach. Sassia's Earth Caste facilities focus on developing training equipment and educational technologies that enhance the effectiveness of military instruction throughout the Empire. The Sept's engineers have pioneered advances in simulation technology, virtual reality training systems, and adaptive learning programs that can customize instruction based on individual student needs and learning styles. These innovations have been implemented across Tau space, improving the quality and efficiency of military training while reducing the time required to prepare new personnel for combat operations. The Sept's cultural influence extends beyond military education, as Sassia scholars and philosophers have made significant contributions to ongoing discussions about Aun'Va interpretation and application in complex situations. The planet's academic institutions maintain extensive research programs that examine the philosophical foundations of Tau civilization while exploring practical applications of greater good principles in various contexts. Sassia's intellectual community has produced influential works on military ethics, leadership theory, and the proper relationship between individual initiative and collective responsibility. Borkin's Sept represents the technological heart of the Tau Empire, where Earth Caste innovation pushes the boundaries of scientific knowledge and engineering capability to create the advanced technologies that give Tau forces their decisive advantages over alien enemies. The Sept's research facilities house the most sophisticated scientific equipment available to Tau civilization, along with experimental laboratories where theoretical concepts are transformed into practical applications that enhance every aspect of Tau society. Borkin's unique geological features include rare mineral deposits that are essential for cutting-edge technology development, while its stable climate provides ideal conditions for precision manufacturing and sensitive scientific research. The Sept's research institutions operate at the forefront of multiple scientific disciplines simultaneously, with Earth Caste teams working on projects ranging from fundamental physics research to practical engineering applications that can be implemented immediately. Borkin laboratories have produced breakthrough advances in pulse weapon technology, including improvements in energy efficiency, targeting accuracy, and ammunition capacity that have been incorporated into weapon systems throughout the Tau military. The Sept's materials science research has yielded new alloys and composite materials that provide enhanced protection while reducing weight, enabling the development of more effective armor systems and battlesuit designs. Borkin's manufacturing capabilities focus on producing the most sophisticated and technically advanced equipment in the Tau arsenal, including prototype weapon systems and experimental technologies that require exceptional precision and quality control. The Sept's factories incorporate automation systems that can maintain tolerances measured in microscopic units while producing complex components at industrial scales, enabling the creation of equipment that would be impossible to manufacture using conventional techniques. These advanced manufacturing methods have revolutionized Tau production capabilities while establishing new standards for quality and reliability that benefit the entire empire. The Sept's artificial intelligence research programs have yielded significant advances in drone technology and automated systems that multiply Tau combat effectiveness while reducing personnel requirements. Borkin AI specialists have developed sophisticated control algorithms that enable drone units to operate with unprecedented autonomy while maintaining coordination with organic commanders and adherence to Tau tactical doctrine. These innovations have created force multiplication capabilities that help compensate for Tau numerical disadvantages against larger alien civilizations, while maintaining the precision and discrimination that characterize Tau military operations. Borkin's theoretical physics research has contributed to fundamental understanding of the forces governing interstellar travel and communication, laying the groundwork for improved FTL drive systems and more reliable long-range communication networks. The Sept scientists have made crucial discoveries regarding warp current behavior and the interaction between normal space and the immaterium, knowledge that has enabled more efficient and safer interstellar navigation techniques. These theoretical advances have practical applications that enhance Tau expansion capabilities while reducing the risks associated with long-distance space travel. The Sept's collaborative research networks maintain extensive connections with scientific institutions throughout the Tau Empire, facilitating knowledge sharing and coordinated research efforts that maximize the benefits of technological advancement. Borkin scientists regularly exchange personnel and information with colleagues from other Septs, creating interdisciplinary research teams that can tackle complex problems requiring diverse expertise. This collaborative approach has accelerated the pace of technological development while ensuring that new innovations are rapidly disseminated throughout Tau civilization for maximum benefit. The expansion of the Tau Empire beyond their original homeworld brought them into contact with numerous alien species, many of which possessed capabilities that complemented Tau's strengths while compensating for their inherent limitations. Rather than following the imperial model of xenocide or subjugation, the Tau embraced a philosophy of integration that sought to incorporate useful alien populations into their growing empire as valued partners rather than mere servants. This approach reflected core Aun'Va principles regarding the optimization of collective potential through diversity and cooperation, creating a multi-species civilization that drew strength from the unique capabilities of each constituent population. The Kroot represent perhaps the most significant auxiliary species within the Tau Empire, serving as close combat specialists whose evolutionary adaptations provide capabilities that standard Tau forces cannot match. These avian-descended carnivores possess a unique biological trait that allows them to absorb genetic material from consumed prey, gradually incorporating beneficial characteristics into their own physiology over successive generations. This evolutionary flexibility has enabled Kroot populations to adapt to diverse environments and combat roles while maintaining their fundamental identity as skilled hunters and warriors. Kroot society operates under the leadership of Shapers, experienced individuals who guide their kindred's evolutionary development through careful selection of prey and strategic consumption of genetic material. These leaders possess deep understanding of how different genetic traits will affect their followers' capabilities, making calculated decisions about which enemies to consume and which characteristics to incorporate into their kindred's evolutionary path. Shapers maintain extensive oral traditions that preserve knowledge about successful genetic combinations and the long-term consequences of various evolutionary choices, ensuring that their decisions benefit future generations rather than merely addressing immediate tactical needs. The physical appearance of Kroot varies significantly between different kindreds based on their evolutionary history and the prey species they have consumed over generations. Standard Kroot warriors stand approximately as tall as Tau fire warriors, but possess a more muscular build with pronounced avian features, including beaked faces, keen eyes adapted for hunting, and powerful legs that enable impressive leaping abilities. Their arms terminate in sharp talons capable of rending flesh and armor, while their digitigrade legs provide exceptional speed and agility across varied terrain. Kroot skin typically displays mottled patterns in earth tones that provide natural camouflage, though specific coloration varies based on environmental adaptation and genetic inheritance. Kroot military organization centers around kindreds led by experienced Shapers who coordinate their followers' activities based on tactical requirements and evolutionary objectives. These kindreds typically include between 20 and 50 warriors, though larger formations can be assembled for major operations by combining multiple kindreds under senior Shaper leadership. Kroot warriors carry a variety of weapons, including traditional Kroot rifles that fire solid projectiles, close combat weapons designed to complement their natural talons, and scavenged equipment taken from defeated enemies. The Kroot rifle represents a fascinating example of their technological philosophy, combining practical effectiveness with evolutionary utility. These weapons fire solid ammunition that can penetrate armor through kinetic energy transfer, while remaining simple enough for field maintenance under primitive conditions. The rifle's design incorporates a blade attachment that transforms it into an effective melee weapon, reflecting Kroot preference for equipment that serves multiple purposes. Many Kroot rifles also feature decorative elements made from bones or other materials taken from significant prey, serving as both personal trophies and indicators of the warrior's combat experience. Kroot tactical doctrine emphasizes mobility, stealth, and close-quarters combat, providing capabilities that complement Tau range superiority while addressing their weakness in melee engagements. Kroot warriors excel at infiltration missions that require moving through difficult terrain without detection, using their natural camouflage and hunting instincts to approach enemy positions undetected. Their ability to consume fallen enemies provides both psychological warfare benefits and practical intelligence gathering, as consumed genetic material can sometimes provide insights into enemy capabilities and weaknesses. The integration of Kroot forces with Tau military units creates combined formations that maximize the strengths of both species while minimizing their respective weaknesses. Tau fire warriors provide long-range fire support and advanced technology, while Kroot warriors handle close combat situations and reconnaissance missions that would be difficult for Tau forces. This cooperation has proven particularly effective in urban warfare environments where Tau preference for ranged combat can be negated by confined spaces and limited sight lines. Kroot evolutionary adaptation has produced specialized variants that serve specific military roles within Tau formations. Kroot hounds represent one such adaptation, created through selective consumption of canine genetic material that enhanced their tracking abilities and pack coordination instincts. These creatures serve as scouts and hunting companions, capable of following scent trails across vast distances while maintaining communication with their handlers through subtle vocalizations and body language. Kroot hounds possess enhanced senses that can detect enemies hiding in terrain that would conceal them from Tau sensors, providing early warning of potential threats. The development of Krootox represents a more dramatic evolutionary adaptation, incorporating genetic material from large herbivorous creatures to create massive beasts capable of carrying heavy weapons and equipment. These creatures serve as living artillery platforms, mounting weapons too large for individual warriors to carry while providing mobile fire support that can keep pace with advancing infantry. Krootox handlers guide their mounts through verbal commands and physical cues, creating partnerships that combine the beast's strength with the handler's tactical awareness. Kroot integration into Tau society extends beyond purely military applications, as their unique capabilities provide benefits in exploration, resource gathering, and environmental adaptation. Kroot scouts can survive in hostile environments that would require extensive life support equipment for Tau personnel, while their hunting skills enable them to locate resources and identify potential threats in unexplored territories. Their evolutionary flexibility allows Kroot populations to adapt to new worlds more rapidly than most species, making them valuable partners in colonization efforts. The Vespid stingwings represent another crucial auxiliary species, whose capabilities complement Tau military doctrine through specialized aerial combat and reconnaissance roles. These insected creatures possess natural flight abilities that enable them to operate in three-dimensional combat environments where Tau forces would require mechanical assistance. Vespid society operates through collective decision-making processes that align well with Tau'va principles, creating natural compatibility between the two species despite their vastly different evolutionary origins. Vespid physiology features chitinous exoskeletons that provide natural armor protection while maintaining the flexibility necessary for aerial maneuvers. Their forewings generate sufficient lift to carry both their body weight and military equipment, while their compound eyes provide exceptional visual acuity that enables them to track multiple targets simultaneously. Vespid limbs terminate in sharp claws that serve both as weapons and as tools for manipulating equipment, while their elongated heads house sophisticated sensory organs that can detect electromagnetic emissions and chemical traces. The most remarkable aspect of Vespid technology involves their use of neutron blasters, weapons that harness exotic matter states to create devastating energy discharges. These weapons appear to be grown rather than manufactured, incorporating crystalline structures that focus and direct energy through principles that Tau scientists have not fully understood despite extensive research. The neutron blasters produce coherent energy beams that can penetrate heavy armor while maintaining accuracy at extended ranges, making Vespid warriors effective against targets that might resist conventional Tau weapons. Vespid military organization reflects their collective social structure, with individual warriors operating as part of larger swarms that coordinate their actions through pheromone communication and electromagnetic signals. These swarms can execute complex maneuvers with precision that rivals Tau drone formations, while maintaining the flexibility to adapt to changing battlefield conditions without requiring direct command authority. Vespid strain leaders serve as focal points for swarm coordination, but their role involves facilitating collective decision-making rather than imposing hierarchical control. The integration of Vespid forces with Tau military units provides aerial capabilities that complement existing air caste assets, while offering unique advantages in specific tactical situations. Vespid warriors can operate in atmospheric conditions that would ground conventional aircraft, while their small size and natural maneuverability enable them to engage targets in confined spaces where larger vehicles cannot operate effectively. Their ability to land on vertical surfaces and hover in place provides tactical flexibility that enhances Tau combined arms operations. Vespid reconnaissance capabilities prove particularly valuable for Tau expansion efforts, as their aerial mobility enables them to survey large areas rapidly, while their advanced sensory systems can detect resources and potential threats that might escape ground-based observation. Vespid scouts can operate independently for extended periods, using their natural abilities to find food and shelter, while maintaining communication with Tau command elements through their strain leaders. Their reports provide crucial intelligence that enables Tau forces to plan operations with comprehensive understanding of terrain and enemy dispositions. The crystalline technology employed by Vespid warriors has attracted significant interest from Tau Earth caste researchers, who have attempted to understand the principles underlying neutron blaster operation and crystal growth techniques. These research efforts have yielded limited success, as Vespid technology appears to operate through biological processes that cannot be easily replicated using conventional manufacturing methods. However, the collaboration between Vespid and Tau technicians has produced hybrid systems that combine Vespid crystalline components with Tau electronic systems, creating experimental weapons with enhanced capabilities. The Nikasar represent one of the most enigmatic auxiliary species within the Tau Empire, serving as the primary source of psychic capabilities in a civilization that otherwise possesses minimal connection to the warp. These ancient beings evolved on gas giant worlds, where they developed powerful psychic abilities that enable them to manipulate gravitational fields and navigate through space without mechanical assistance. Their integration into Tau society provides essential capabilities that Tau forces cannot replicate through technology alone, particularly in areas related to warp navigation and psychic defense. Nikasar physiology reflects their adaptation to low-gravity environments, featuring elongated bodies with multiple appendages that enable them to maneuver effectively in three-dimensional space. Their skin displays a pale, almost translucent quality that reveals underlying circulatory systems, while their large eyes suggest adaptation to low-light conditions common in gas giant atmospheres. Nikasar possess no apparent vocal cords, communicating primarily through telepathic contact that enables direct mind-to-mind information transfer without the ambiguity inherent in verbal communication. The psychic abilities of Nikasar individuals vary significantly based on their age, training, and natural aptitude, but most possess sufficient power to influence local gravitational fields and detect psychic phenomena across considerable distances. Their most crucial capability involves navigating warp currents without the dangerous exposure to chaotic influences that affects most psychers, apparently through techniques that maintain mental barriers while accessing the information necessary for interstellar travel. This ability makes Nikasar navigators essential for Tau expansion efforts, as they provide the only reliable method for traversing the warp without risking corruption or catastrophic navigation errors. Nikasar integration into Tau society required careful accommodation of their unique physiological and psychological needs, as these beings cannot survive in standard atmospheric conditions preferred by most Tau species. Specialized environmental systems maintain the low pressure, high humidity conditions that Nikasar require, while their dietary needs are met through carefully prepared nutrient solutions that replicate the atmospheric chemistry of their homeworld. These accommodations represent significant logistical challenges, but the capabilities that Nikasar provide justify the additional complexity and expense. The role of Nikasar within Tau military operations extends beyond simple navigation assistance, as their psychic abilities provide defensive capabilities against enemy psychers and demonic manifestations. Nikasar can detect psychic phenomena before they become apparent to conventional sensors, providing early warning of potential warp-based attacks or infiltration attempts. Their ability to manipulate gravitational fields enables them to create defensive barriers or redirect incoming projectiles, though these capabilities require significant concentration and cannot be maintained indefinitely. Nikasar participation in Tau expansion efforts has been crucial for establishing colonies in regions where conventional navigation methods prove inadequate or dangerous. Their ability to identify safe warp routes and detect potential hazards enables Tau fleets to reach distant worlds that would otherwise remain inaccessible, expanding the Empire's reach into previously unexplored regions of space. Nikasar navigators also provide backup navigation capabilities for critical missions, ensuring that important operations can continue even if primary navigation systems fail or become compromised. The Gevesa represent human populations that have been integrated into Tau society through diplomatic conversion rather than military conquest, demonstrating the effectiveness of water caste negotiation techniques and the appeal of Aun'Va philosophy to populations suffering under imperial oppression. These converted humans maintain their basic human characteristics while adopting Tau cultural practices and military techniques, creating hybrid formations that combine human adaptability with Tau technological advantages. The successful integration of Gevesa populations provides practical evidence that Tau expansion methods can create lasting alliances rather than temporary occupations. Gevesa military units typically employ modified Tau equipment adapted for human physiology and combat preferences, creating formations that bridge the gap between Imperial Guard tactics and Tau combined arms doctrine. These units often serve as intermediaries in situations where direct Tau involvement might provoke unnecessary conflict, as human auxiliaries can interact with Imperial populations without triggering the immediate hostility that Tau presence might generate. Gevesa commanders possess understanding of both Imperial and Tau military methods, enabling them to develop innovative tactical approaches that exploit the weaknesses of both systems. The conversion process for Gevesa populations involves extensive education about Aun'Va principles and practical demonstration of the benefits that Tau civilization can provide. Water caste negotiators identify human populations that are dissatisfied with imperial rule, often focusing on worlds where corruption, oppression, or neglect have created conditions that make Tau offers of cooperation attractive. The conversion process emphasizes voluntary acceptance rather than coercion, as Tau philosophy recognizes that forced compliance produces unreliable allies who may rebel when circumstances change. Gevesa integration into Tau society extends beyond military service to include participation in civilian occupations and cultural activities that demonstrate genuine acceptance rather than mere utilitarian exploitation. Human auxiliaries can pursue careers in Earth caste technical fields, water caste administrative roles, or specialized positions that take advantage of their unique capabilities and perspectives. This comprehensive integration creates genuine loyalty based on shared interests rather than fear or necessity, producing auxiliary forces that can be trusted with sensitive missions and critical responsibilities. The success of Gevesa integration has encouraged Tau expansion efforts to focus on diplomatic conversion rather than military conquest whenever possible, as converted populations provide more reliable long-term allies than conquered territories. Gevasa units serve as living proof that Aun'Va principles can benefit non-Tau populations, making them valuable assets in negotiations with other human worlds that might be considering defection from the Imperium. Their presence in Tau military formations also provides psychological warfare benefits, as Imperial forces must confront the reality that some humans have chosen to fight alongside aliens rather than defend the Emperor. The emergence of Commander Aun'Va, later known throughout the galaxy as Commander Farsight, represents one of the most significant and controversial developments in Tau military history. Born on the aggressive Sept world of Viorla, Aun'Va embodied the hot-blooded martial spirit that characterized his homeworld's fire caste culture. His early career demonstrated exceptional tactical acumen and personal courage that quickly elevated him through the ranks of the fire caste hierarchy, earning recognition as one of the most promising young commanders in the Tau Empire's expanding military forces. Aun'Va's initial campaigns against Orc raiders in the outer systems showcased his innovative approach to combined arms warfare and his ability to inspire fierce loyalty among his subordinates. Unlike many fire caste commanders who relied heavily on established doctrine and careful preparation, Aun'Va displayed a talent for tactical improvisation that enabled him to adapt quickly to unexpected battlefield developments. His willingness to take calculated risks and his personal leadership from the front lines created a reputation for aggressive effectiveness that made him a natural choice for leading expeditionary forces into the dangerous outer reaches of Tau space. The Farsight expedition began as a routine expansion mission designed to establish Tau presence in the Damocles Gulf region and secure strategic resources for the growing empire. Aun'Va received command of a substantial force that included elite fire warrior cadres, advanced battlesuit formations, and supporting elements from all castes necessary for extended independent operations. The expedition's initial objectives focused on establishing forward bases and conducting reconnaissance of potential colony worlds, but the realities of operating in the galaxy's outer darkness would transform this routine mission into something far more significant. The expedition's first major encounters with Chaos forces occurred during the investigation of apparently abandoned human settlements on worlds that Imperial records indicated should have been thriving colonies. Aun'Va's forces discovered evidence of systematic corruption and demonic infestation that defied rational explanation, forcing Tau commanders to confront the existence of threats that their scientific worldview could not adequately address. The discovery of ritual sites decorated with blasphemous symbols and the remains of populations that had apparently participated in their own destruction created psychological stress among Tau personnel who had never encountered evidence of supernatural malevolence. These initial Chaos encounters revealed critical weaknesses in standard Tau military doctrine when facing enemies that operated according to principles that violated natural law. Pulse weapons and conventional tactics proved effective against cultist forces and demon-possessed humans, but the psychological impact of witnessing impossible phenomena began to erode the confidence and unit cohesion that formed the foundation of Tau military effectiveness. Aun'Va recognized that his forces required new approaches and equipment to maintain effectiveness against enemies that could manipulate reality itself through warp-based powers. The expedition's encounters with massive Orc empires in the region presented more conventional military challenges, but the scale and ferocity of these conflicts pushed Tau forces to their operational limits. The Orc populations in the outer systems had grown to enormous size during their isolation from Imperial suppression efforts, creating Wa formations that numbered in the millions and possessed crude but effective technology scavenged from countless battlefields. Aun'Va's forces found themselves fighting desperate defensive actions against enemies that could absorb casualties that would have broken any civilized military force, while continuing to press their attacks with undiminished enthusiasm. The prolonged nature of these campaigns forced Aun'Va to make increasingly difficult decisions about resource allocation and tactical priorities, as his expedition operated far from Tau's supply lines and reinforcement sources. Standard Tau doctrine emphasized careful preparation and overwhelming firepower concentration, but the realities of fighting multiple enemies simultaneously across vast distances required more flexible approaches that prioritized speed and adaptability over methodical execution. Aun'Va began developing modified tactical doctrines that emphasized rapid redeployment and opportunistic strikes rather than the patient defensive strategies preferred by most Tau commanders. The discovery of the Dawn Blade marked a crucial turning point in Aun'Va's career and his relationship with ethereal authority. The ancient weapon was recovered from the ruins of a human fortress world that had been consumed by chaos corruption, lying among artifacts that suggested it had been used by human defenders in their final desperate stand against demonic forces. The blade's origins remained mysterious, but its effects on Aun'Va were immediately apparent as it seemed to enhance his natural leadership abilities while providing him with insights into combat tactics that exceeded his previous experience. The Dawn Blade appeared to be a masterwork of unknown craftsmanship, featuring a curved design that resembled traditional Tau honor blades while incorporating materials and construction techniques that Earth Caste analysis could not identify. The weapon's edge maintained perfect sharpness despite extensive use, while its balance and weight distribution seemed perfectly suited to Aun'Va's fighting style. More disturbing to ethereal observers was the blade's apparent effect on Aun'Va's aging process, as he began to show fewer signs of physical deterioration despite the stress of extended campaign operations. Aun'Va's growing independence from ethereal control manifested gradually as he made increasingly autonomous decisions about tactical priorities and strategic objectives. His experiences fighting chaos forces had exposed him to evidence that contradicted fundamental assumptions about the nature of reality and the ethereal interpretation of Tau philosophy. The existence of supernatural threats that could corrupt and destroy civilizations through means that Tau science could not explain forced Aun'Va to question whether ethereal guidance was adequate for protecting Tau interests in a galaxy filled with dangers that transcended conventional understanding. The philosophical conflicts between Aun'Va and ethereal authority intensified as his expedition encountered increasing evidence of alien technologies and supernatural phenomena that challenged established Tau doctrine. Aun'Va began incorporating captured enemy equipment into his force's arsenal, arguing that the greater good required using every available advantage against enemies that threatened Tau's survival. This pragmatic approach conflicted with ethereal teachings about the purity of Tau technology and the dangers of relying on alien innovations that might corrupt Tau's society from within. The establishment of the Farsight enclaves began as a practical necessity rather than a deliberate act of rebellion, as Aun'Va's forces found themselves cut off from the main Tau empire by warp storms and enemy action that made communication and resupply impossible. The worlds that would become the enclaves were originally intended as temporary bases for the expedition's operations, but their strategic importance and defensive potential made them natural centers for permanent settlement. Aun'Va's decision to establish independent colonies reflected his growing conviction that Tau's survival required local autonomy and tactical flexibility rather than centralized control from distant ethereal authorities. The 8 elite commanders who joined Aun'Va in rejecting ethereal authority became known throughout the region as the 8, each bringing specialized expertise and loyal followers who shared their commander's commitment to protecting Tau interests through whatever means proved necessary. These commanders had served with distinction during the expedition's most difficult campaigns, earning their positions through demonstrated competence and personal courage rather than political connections or adherence to orthodox doctrine. Their decision to support Aun'Va represented a collective judgment that ethereal guidance was inadequate for addressing the existential threats facing Tau's civilization. Commander Bravestorm earned his position among the 8 through exceptional skill in battlesuit combat and his development of innovative tactics for fighting in urban environments against numerically superior enemies. His expertise in close-quarters combat proved proved invaluable during the siege of several Orc-held fortress cities, where his ability to coordinate battlesuit teams in confined spaces enabled Tau forces to achieve victory despite facing overwhelming odds. Bravestorm's tactical innovations emphasized aggressive assault techniques that maximized Tau technological advantages while minimizing exposure to enemy counterattacks. Commander Brightsword distinguished himself through his mastery of combined arms coordination and his ability to integrate diverse military assets into cohesive battle formations. His campaigns against Chaos cultist forces demonstrated innovative approaches to fighting enemies that used unconventional tactics and possessed supernatural abilities that conventional Tau doctrine could not address effectively. Brightsword's tactical philosophy emphasized adaptability and rapid response to changing battlefield conditions, principles that aligned with Aun'Va's evolving military doctrine. Commander Shavastos became renowned for his expertise in long-range warfare and his development of advanced targeting techniques that maximized the effectiveness of Tau ranged superiority. His sniper teams achieved legendary accuracy during campaigns against Orc warbosses and Chaos champions, eliminating enemy leaders at distances that rendered return fire impossible. Shavastos's tactical contributions included innovative uses of Pathfinder teams and drone technology that enhanced Tau reconnaissance capabilities while providing devastating fire support for advancing forces. The establishment of the Farsight Enclaves created a parallel Tau civilization that maintained the fundamental principles of the greater good while rejecting ethereal authority and orthodox interpretation of Tau'va philosophy. The Enclaves developed their own governmental structures based on meritocratic leadership and collective decision-making among proven military commanders, creating a system that emphasized practical effectiveness over philosophical purity. This alternative approach to Tau governance attracted supporters who believed that rigid adherence to ethereal doctrine was preventing the Tau Empire from adapting to the galaxy's dangerous realities. The military doctrine that emerged within the Farsight Enclaves reflected Aun'Va's combat experience and his willingness to incorporate lessons learned from fighting diverse enemies across multiple theaters of operation. Enclave forces emphasized tactical flexibility and individual initiative rather than strict adherence to established doctrine, creating military formations that could adapt quickly to unexpected challenges while maintaining the coordination and firepower concentration that characterized Tau warfare. This approach produced highly effective combat units that achieved consistent success against enemies that had proven difficult for conventional Tau forces to defeat. The technological development within the Farsight Enclaves proceeded along different lines than the main Tau Empire, as Enclave Earth Caste engineers were encouraged to experiment with captured alien technology and unconventional approaches to military equipment design. This research produced innovative weapons and equipment that enhanced Enclave military capabilities while maintaining compatibility with standard Tau systems. The willingness to incorporate alien technology and unconventional materials enabled Enclave forces to develop specialized equipment for fighting specific enemy types that conventional Tau doctrine could not address effectively. The ongoing tensions between the Farsight Enclaves and the main Tau Empire created complex diplomatic and military challenges that affected both civilizations' strategic planning and resource allocation. Ethereal authorities viewed the Enclaves as a dangerous precedent that threatened Tau unity and philosophical coherence, while Enclave leadership maintained that their independence was necessary for protecting Tau interests against threats that the Empire could not or would not address adequately. These philosophical differences created persistent friction that occasionally erupted into limited military conflicts, despite both sides' commitment to Tau's survival and prosperity. The technological exchange between the Enclaves and the Empire continued despite political tensions, as both civilizations recognized the mutual benefits of sharing scientific knowledge and military innovations. Enclave research into alien technology and unconventional warfare techniques provided valuable intelligence about enemy capabilities and potential countermeasures, while Empire technological advances in conventional areas continued to benefit Enclave military operations. This informal cooperation enabled both Tau civilizations to maintain technological superiority over their enemies, while pursuing different approaches to expansion and governance. The Farsight Enclave's military successes against Chaos forces and Orc empires provided practical validation for Aun'Va's tactical innovations and his rejection of orthodox doctrine, creating a compelling alternative model for Tau military organization and strategic thinking. Enclave forces achieved consistent victories against enemies that had proven difficult for conventional Tau forces to defeat, demonstrating the effectiveness of flexible doctrine and autonomous command authority. These successes attracted attention throughout the Tau Empire and influenced military thinking even among commanders who remained loyal to ethereal authority. The ideological differences between the Enclaves and the Empire extended beyond military doctrine to encompass fundamental questions about Tau identity, governance, and long-term survival in a hostile galaxy. Enclave philosophy emphasized individual responsibility and practical effectiveness over collective harmony and philosophical purity, creating a more aggressive and opportunistic approach to expansion and diplomacy. This alternative interpretation of Aun'Va principles attracted supporters who believed that orthodox doctrine was too restrictive and idealistic for addressing the galaxy's harsh realities. The legacy of Commander Farsight and the establishment of the Enclaves continues to influence Tau military and political development, as both civilizations grapple with the implications of divided authority and competing interpretations of the greater good. The existence of a successful alternative to ethereal rule demonstrates that Tau civilization can survive and prosper under different governmental systems, while the Enclave's military achievements provide evidence that tactical innovation and doctrinal flexibility can enhance Tau effectiveness against diverse enemies. These developments have created ongoing debates within Tau society about the proper balance between unity and autonomy, tradition and innovation, and collective responsibility and individual initiative. The first major military confrontation between the Tau Empire and the Imperium of Man erupted during the Damocles Gulf Crusade in the year 742 of the 41st millennium, marking the beginning of a complex relationship that would define both civilizations' strategic priorities for centuries to come. The crusade originated from Imperial reconnaissance reports that described a rapidly expanding alien empire in the Eastern Fringe, possessing advanced technology and military capabilities that posed a potential threat to Imperial worlds in the region. Adeptus Mechanicus explorator fleets had detected Tau expansion activities across multiple systems, noting the sophisticated nature of their settlements and the apparent cooperation between different alien species under Tau leadership. The Imperium's response to Tau expansion reflected centuries of established doctrine regarding alien threats, emphasizing overwhelming military force and complete eradication of Xenos populations that might challenge human supremacy. The Damocles Gulf Crusade assembled substantial Imperial forces, including multiple Space Marine chapters, Imperial Guard regiments, and supporting elements from the Imperial Navy and Adeptus Mechanicus. The Crusade's objectives focused on eliminating Tau military capabilities and establishing Imperial control over strategically important worlds that the aliens had claimed for their empire. The initial phases of the Damocles Gulf Crusade demonstrated the fundamental differences between Imperial and Tau approaches to warfare, as Imperial forces launched direct assaults against Tau positions, while the aliens employed sophisticated defensive strategies that maximized their technological advantages. Tau commanders had anticipated Imperial aggression and prepared defensive positions that channeled attacking forces into carefully prepared killing zones where concentrated firepower could achieve maximum effectiveness. The aliens' use of advanced sensor networks and coordinated fire support created defensive systems that proved far more effective than Imperial intelligence estimates had predicted. The Battle of Daleth Prime became the defining engagement of the Damocles Gulf Crusade, as Imperial forces attempted to capture the heavily fortified Mont'au Sept world through conventional assault tactics. The planet's surface featured extensive urban areas protected by sophisticated defensive networks that incorporated both fixed fortifications and mobile battlesuit formations, capable of rapid redeployment based on changing tactical requirements. Mont'au defenders had months to prepare their positions, creating interlocking fields of fire that covered all possible approach routes while maintaining communication links that enabled coordinated responses to Imperial attacks. Imperial assault forces discovered that Mont'au defensive doctrine emphasized precision targeting and ammunition conservation rather than the massed firepower displays typical of human military operations. Mont'au pulse weapons proved devastatingly effective against Imperial armor and infantry, delivering concentrated energy bursts that could penetrate even Space Marine power armor at extended ranges. The aliens' targeting systems enabled accurate fire even under adverse conditions, while their advanced communication networks allowed defensive units to coordinate their actions with precision that Imperial forces found difficult to counter. The urban warfare that characterized much of the Daleth Prime campaign revealed significant weaknesses in Imperial tactical doctrine when facing enemies that possessed technological superiority and superior coordination capabilities. Imperial Guard regiments trained for conventional battlefield operations struggled to adapt to Mont'au defensive strategies that emphasized mobility and concentrated firepower rather than static defensive lines. Space Marine assault tactics proved less effective against enemies that could detect and engage Imperial forces at ranges that negated the advantages of power armor and superior physical capabilities. Mont'au battlesuit formations demonstrated their tactical effectiveness during the Daleth Prime campaign, as crisis teams provided mobile firepower that could respond rapidly to Imperial breakthrough attempts while maintaining the flexibility to withdraw before Imperial forces could organize effective counterattacks. The battlesuit's advanced targeting systems and sophisticated weapons loadouts enabled them to engage multiple Imperial unit types simultaneously, while their jump jet capabilities allowed rapid redeployment that kept Imperial forces constantly off balance. These mobile formations proved particularly effective at eliminating Imperial heavy weapons teams and command elements that attempted to coordinate large-scale assaults. The integration of Mont'au auxiliary forces with core, Sept military units created combined formations that exploited Imperial weaknesses while compensating for Mont'au limitations in close-quarters combat. Kroot warriors provided close combat capabilities that complemented Mont'au ranged superiority, while their infiltration skills enabled them to establish positions behind Imperial lines that disrupted supply operations and communication networks. Vespid Stingwings offered aerial reconnaissance and precision strikes against Imperial positions that conventional aircraft could not access, while their neutron blasters proved effective against Imperial vehicles and fortifications. The Damocles Gulf Crusade's eventual conclusion came not through decisive military victory by either side, but through the emergence of a greater threat that forced both civilizations to reassess their strategic priorities. The appearance of Hive Fleet Behemoth in the galaxy's Eastern Fringe created an existential threat that dwarfed the territorial disputes between the Imperium and Mont'au Empire, as the Tyranid swarm posed a danger to all organic life in the region. Imperial commanders recognized that continuing the crusade would leave both civilizations vulnerable to Tyranid consumption, while Mont'au leadership understood that cooperation with human forces might be necessary for survival against the alien devourers. The cessation of hostilities during the Damocles Gulf Crusade established precedents for future Mont'au Imperial interactions, demonstrating that both civilizations could recognize mutual interests when faced with existential threats. The informal ceasefire that ended the crusade created opportunities for limited cooperation against Tyranid forces, while establishing boundaries that both sides generally respected during subsequent expansion efforts. These arrangements reflected pragmatic recognition that neither civilization possessed sufficient resources to simultaneously fight each other and address the numerous other threats present in the galaxy's Eastern Fringe. The Taros campaign represented a different type of conflict between Tau and Imperial forces, focusing on control of a strategically important desert world that possessed significant mineral resources and defensive advantages. The planet Taros had been an Imperial mining world for centuries, but its remote location and minimal garrison made it an attractive target for Tau expansion, efforts seeking to establish forward bases for further colonization activities. The campaign began with Caste diplomatic overtures to the planet's human population, offering improved living conditions and technological assistance in exchange for voluntary integration into the Tau Empire. The success of Tau diplomatic efforts on Taros demonstrated the effectiveness of Caste negotiation techniques when dealing with human populations that had legitimate grievances against Imperial administration. The planet's mining operations had created harsh working conditions and environmental degradation that affected the quality of life for ordinary citizens, while Imperial taxation and resource extraction policies provided few benefits to local populations. Tau offers of improved technology, better working conditions, and representation in planetary governance proved attractive to many Taros inhabitants who had received little benefit from Imperial rule. The Imperial response to Tau infiltration of Taros reflected standard doctrine regarding rebellious populations and alien influence, emphasizing military reconquest and the elimination of Xeno's contamination through overwhelming force. The Taros Expeditionary Force assembled substantial Imperial Guard regiments supported by Space Marine elements and specialized equipment designed for desert warfare operations. The campaign's objectives focused on eliminating Tau military presence while punishing the human population for their collaboration with alien forces, demonstrating Imperial commitment to maintaining control over strategically important worlds regardless of local preferences. The urban warfare that dominated the Taros campaign created tactical challenges that tested both Imperial and Tau military doctrine in environments where conventional advantages could be negated by terrain and civilian populations. Taros cities featured narrow streets and multi-story buildings that provided excellent defensive positions for Tau fire warrior teams, while the presence of human civilians complicated Imperial tactical planning by limiting the use of heavy weapons and orbital bombardment. Tau forces exploited these constraints by establishing defensive positions in civilian areas where Imperial attacks would cause significant collateral damage. Tau defensive strategies during the Taros campaign emphasized the integration of converted human auxiliaries with core Sept military units, creating combined formations that could exploit local knowledge while maintaining Tau technological advantages. Gevasa units provided intelligence about Imperial tactics and equipment while serving as intermediaries with civilian populations that might be reluctant to cooperate with alien forces. These human auxiliaries proved particularly effective in urban environments where their familiarity with local terrain and cultural knowledge enabled them to anticipate Imperial movements and establish effective defensive positions. The prolonged nature of the Taros campaign demonstrated Tau commitment to defending territories that they had incorporated into their empire, even when such defense required significant resource expenditure and casualties. Tau reinforcement efforts brought additional Sept forces to Taros, along with specialized equipment designed for desert warfare and urban combat operations. The campaign became a test of Tau resolve and military capabilities against Imperial forces that possessed numerical superiority and extensive experience in reconquest operations. Imperial forces discovered that Tau defensive doctrine in urban environments emphasized precision targeting and selective engagement, rather than the attrition warfare typical of Imperial military operations. Tau commanders avoided large-scale engagements that would expose their forces to Imperial firepower advantages, instead focusing on eliminating key Imperial personnel and equipment through targeted strikes that maximized damage while minimizing Tau casualties. This approach proved frustrating for Imperial commanders who preferred decisive battles that could achieve clear tactical objectives through conventional military means. The Taro's campaign's eventual outcome reflected the strategic limitations that both civilizations faced when conducting extended military operations far from their core territories. Imperial forces achieved tactical victories in several major engagements, but found themselves unable to eliminate Tau resistance completely, while Tau defenders successfully prevented Imperial reconquest but could not drive Imperial forces from the planet entirely. The campaign's conclusion came through mutual exhaustion rather than decisive victory, as both sides recognized that continued fighting would drain resources needed for other strategic priorities. The Second War for Armageddon created opportunities for Tau expansion activities, as Imperial forces concentrated their attention on defending the strategically crucial Hive world against Orc invasion. The massive Wa-Gaz call that threatened Armageddon required substantial Imperial military resources, including Space Marine chapters and Imperial Guard regiments that would otherwise have been available for frontier defense operations. Tau intelligence networks detected this Imperial redeployment and identified several lightly defended worlds that could be targeted for expansion efforts, while Imperial attention remained focused on the Armageddon conflict. Tau expansion operations during the Second War for Armageddon demonstrated the Empire's ability to exploit Imperial strategic weaknesses through careful timing and selective targeting. Water caste analysis identified human worlds that possessed strategic value but minimal defensive capabilities, while Earth caste survey teams evaluated their potential for supporting Tau colonization efforts. The expansion campaigns focused on worlds that could provide forward bases for future operations, while avoiding direct confrontation with major Imperial military formations that might trigger larger conflicts. The peripheral conflicts that erupted during Tau expansion efforts created limited engagements between Tau and Imperial forces that tested both civilizations' tactical doctrines without escalating into major campaigns. These conflicts typically involved Tau expeditionary forces attempting to establish footholds on contested worlds, while Imperial garrison forces tried to prevent alien infiltration and maintain control over strategically important territories. The engagements demonstrated Tau tactical superiority in small unit actions, while revealing Imperial advantages in sustained operations that could draw upon extensive logistical support networks. Tau opportunistic expansion during the Second War for Armageddon established several forward bases that would prove crucial for future military operations, while demonstrating the Empire's ability to adapt its strategic planning based on changing galactic conditions. The worlds captured during this period provided staging areas for subsequent expansion efforts, while creating strategic depth that enhanced Tau defensive capabilities. These territorial gains reflected successful integration of military operations with diplomatic initiatives that convinced local populations to accept Tau rule rather than resist alien occupation. The Mugulath Bay campaign represented a more recent conflict between Tau and Imperial forces, focusing on control of a strategically important star system that provided access to multiple expansion routes for both civilizations. The system's location made it a natural choke point for military operations in the region, while its worlds possessed resources that could support substantial military installations and industrial development. Both the Imperium and Tau Empire recognized the system's strategic importance and committed significant resources to establishing control over its key worlds. The initial phases of the Mugulath Bay campaign demonstrated evolved Tau military doctrine that incorporated lessons learned from previous conflicts with Imperial forces. Tau commanders employed more aggressive tactics than had been typical in earlier campaigns, launching preemptive strikes against Imperial positions while maintaining the coordination and technological advantages that characterized Tau warfare. The campaign featured extensive use of advanced battlesuit formations and sophisticated support systems that enabled Tau forces to achieve tactical superiority despite facing numerically superior Imperial forces. Imperial forces in the Mugulath Bay system employed defensive strategies that reflected their own learning from previous encounters with Tau military capabilities. Imperial commanders established defensive positions that minimized Tau advantages in ranged combat while creating opportunities for close-quarters engagements where Imperial forces could exploit their superior physical capabilities and melee combat training. The campaign featured extensive fortification efforts and the deployment of specialized equipment designed to counter Tau technological advantages. The ongoing nature of the Mugulath Bay campaign reflects the strategic importance that both civilizations place on controlling key systems that provide access to expansion routes and resource-rich worlds. Neither side has achieved decisive victory in the campaign, as both possess sufficient military capabilities to prevent complete defeat while lacking the resources necessary for total conquest. The conflict has evolved into a series of limited engagements and territorial exchanges that demonstrate the tactical capabilities of both militaries without resolving the underlying strategic competition. The border skirmishes that characterize much of the ongoing conflict between the Tau Empire and the Imperium reflect the strategic limitations that both civilizations face when conducting military operations across vast interstellar distances. These engagements typically involve limited forces fighting for control of strategically important but not crucial territories, with both sides recognizing that major campaigns would require resource commitments that might leave them vulnerable to other threats. The skirmishes serve as testing grounds for new tactics and equipment, while maintaining pressure on enemy positions without triggering full-scale warfare. The competition for strategic worlds between the Tau Empire and the Imperium has created a complex pattern of territorial disputes and limited conflicts that reflect both civilizations' expansion priorities and military capabilities. Tau expansion efforts focus on worlds that provide strategic depth and resource access, while avoiding direct confrontation with major Imperial strongholds that would require massive military commitments. Imperial defensive strategies emphasize maintaining control over key systems, while accepting the loss of marginal territories that would be too expensive to defend effectively. The technological evolution that has occurred during these conflicts has benefited both civilizations, as combat experience has driven innovation in weapon systems, tactical doctrine, and military organization. Tau forces have developed improved countermeasures against Imperial weapons and tactics, while Imperial forces have adapted their equipment and strategies to address Tau technological advantages. This ongoing arms race has produced increasingly sophisticated military capabilities on both sides, while creating tactical stalemates that prevent either civilization from achieving decisive strategic advantages. The diplomatic implications of Tau Imperial conflicts extend beyond simple territorial disputes to encompass fundamental questions about the future of human civilization and the possibility of cooperation between different species. Tau diplomatic efforts continue to focus on converting human populations through demonstration of superior governance and technology, while Imperial doctrine maintains that cooperation with aliens represents heresy that threatens human survival. These philosophical differences create persistent tensions that influence military planning and strategic decision-making on both sides. The expansion of the Tau Empire across the Eastern Fringe brought them into contact with numerous alien species whose aggressive nature and unpredictable behavior posed challenges that conventional Tau military doctrine struggled to address effectively. Among these threats, the various Orquas that infested the region represented perhaps the most persistent and dangerous opponents that Tau forces would encounter during their expansion efforts. The green-skinned aliens possessed a crude but effective approach to warfare that emphasized overwhelming numbers, brutal close combat, and a complete disregard for casualties that made them fundamentally different from any enemy the Tau had previously faced. The first major encounter between Tau forces and a substantial Orqua occurred during the expansion into the Purdus Rift region, where warboss Grokirk had assembled a massive force of orc clans that threatened several newly established Tau colonies. The orcs had been raiding human settlements throughout the region for decades, accumulating vast quantities of scrap metal and captured equipment that they had fashioned into crude but functional war machines. Grokirk's forces included thousands of orc boys organized into unruly mobs, supported by ramshackle vehicles and massive war engines that belched smoke and flame as they advanced across the battlefield. Tau reconnaissance forces initially underestimated the threat posed by orc formations, as their crude equipment and apparent lack of tactical coordination suggested that they would be easily defeated by superior Tau firepower and coordination. Fire Caste commanders developed battle plans that emphasized long-range engagement and precise targeting of orc leadership elements, expecting that the elimination of key orc leaders would cause their forces to collapse into disorganized retreat. These assumptions proved catastrophically incorrect when Tau forces encountered the reality of orc warfare and the aliens' ability to maintain combat effectiveness despite suffering casualties that would have broken any civilized military force. The Battle of Blackfire Pass demonstrated the fundamental challenges that orc warfare posed to Tau tactical doctrine, as fire warrior teams found themselves overwhelmed by massive orc formations that absorbed devastating pulse rifle fire without slowing their advance. The orcs' crude but effective armor provided sufficient protection to allow them to close to melee range, where their superior physical strength and brutal weapons gave them decisive advantages over Tau infantry. The aliens' complete disregard for casualties meant that even accurate Tau targeting could not eliminate enough orcs to prevent them from reaching Tau defensive positions. Tau battlesuit formations proved more effective against orc assault tactics, as their mobility and heavy weapons allowed them to engage orc formations at ranges where return fire was ineffective, while maintaining the ability to withdraw before being overwhelmed by superior numbers. Crisis suit teams equipped with plasma rifles and fusion blasters could eliminate orc vehicles and heavy weapons with devastating effectiveness, while their jump jet capabilities enabled rapid redeployment that kept orc forces constantly pursuing rather than establishing their own tactical positions. However, even battlesuit formations found themselves challenged by the sheer scale of orc attacks and the aliens' ability to replace losses faster than Tau forces could inflict casualties. The War of Daka erupted when warboss Scarjaw assembled one of the largest orc wars ever recorded in the Eastern Fringe, drawing clans from across multiple systems to participate in what the orcs considered the ultimate test of their combat prowess. Scarjaw had gained prominence through a series of successful raids against Imperial worlds, accumulating vast quantities of weapons and equipment that he distributed among his followers to create the most heavily armed orc force in the region. The Wa included hundreds of thousands of orc warriors supported by massive fleets of crude but functional spacecraft and ground vehicles that could transport the entire force across interstellar distances. Tau intelligence networks detected the assembly of Scarjaw's Wa through increased orc raiding activity and the movement of large formations toward a central gathering point in the Korava system. Water Caste analysts recognized that this concentration of orc forces represented an existential threat to several Tau septs, as the aliens possessed sufficient numbers to overwhelm even heavily fortified defensive positions through sheer attrition. Fire Caste commanders began developing contingency plans for defending against the Wa, while Earth Caste engineers worked frantically to develop new weapons and defensive systems that could address the unique challenges posed by orc warfare. The initial phases of the War of Daka saw orc forces launch simultaneous attacks against multiple Tau positions, stretching sept defense forces across vast distances while preventing effective concentration of Tau military assets. Scarjaw's tactical approach emphasized keeping Tau forces off balance through constant pressure and multiple simultaneous threats, preventing the careful preparation and coordination that characterized Tau military effectiveness. Orc assault forces struck at mining installations, supply depots, and communication centers with devastating effect, disrupting Tau logistics while gathering additional resources for their own war effort. Tau defensive strategies evolved rapidly during the War of Daka as Fire Caste commanders adapted their tactics to address the unique challenges posed by Orc warfare. Traditional Tau doctrine emphasizing ranged superiority and careful positioning proved inadequate against enemies that could absorb tremendous casualties while maintaining offensive momentum through sheer numerical superiority. Tau commanders began developing new tactical approaches that emphasized mobility, concentrated firepower, and the systematic elimination of Orc leadership elements that provided whatever coordination existed within Orc formations. The development of specialized anti-Orc equipment became a priority for Earth Caste engineers, who worked to create weapons and defensive systems specifically designed to counter Orc tactical advantages. Improved pulse weapons with higher rates of fire could engage multiple Orc targets simultaneously, while enhanced targeting systems enabled Tau forces to identify and eliminate key Orc leaders more effectively. Defensive installations incorporated overlapping fields of fire and automated systems that could maintain effective resistance even when overwhelmed by superior numbers, buying time for reinforcements to arrive and counterattack. The Battle of Aun'Va Prime marked the climax of the War of Daka, as Scarjo's forces launched a massive assault against the heavily fortified Tau Sept world that served as the regional command center for defensive operations. The planet's surface became a hellscape of burning wreckage and constant combat as millions of Orcs threw themselves against Tau defensive positions with complete disregard for casualties. Tau defenders found themselves fighting continuous battles for weeks as Orc assault waves maintained constant pressure against their positions, testing the limits of Tau endurance and equipment reliability. Tau tactical innovations during the Battle of Aun'Va Prime included the development of layered defensive systems that could channel Orc attacks into predetermined killing zones while maintaining escape routes for Tau forces when positions became untenable. Fire Caste commanders learned to trade territory for time, conducting fighting withdrawals that inflicted maximum casualties on Orc forces while preserving Tau military assets for subsequent counterattacks. These tactics required exceptional coordination and discipline, as individual fire warrior teams had to maintain unit cohesion while conducting complex maneuvers under constant enemy pressure. The eventual defeat of Scarjo's Wa came through the systematic elimination of Orc leadership and the disruption of their crude but effective supply systems. Tau intelligence networks identified key Orc leaders and support elements that maintained whatever organization existed within the Wa, enabling targeted strikes that gradually degraded Orc combat effectiveness. The death of Scarjo himself in a battlesuit assault led by Commander Shadowsun caused the Wa to fragment into smaller, more manageable groups that could be defeated through conventional Tau tactics. The lessons learned during the War of Daka fundamentally changed Tau approaches to fighting Orc forces, as military doctrine evolved to address the unique challenges posed by enemies that operated according to principles that violated conventional tactical wisdom. Tau commanders developed specialized training programs that prepared fire warrior teams for the psychological stress of fighting enemies that seemed immune to normal concepts of self-preservation, while tactical doctrine emphasized the importance of maintaining unit cohesion and communication during extended engagements against numerically superior forces. The encounter with Hive Fleet Gorgon represented the Tau Empire's first major confrontation with Tyranid forces, introducing them to an enemy that posed existential threats through biological adaptation and consumption rather than conventional military conquest. The Hive Fleet's approach to the Eastern Fringe was detected by Tau sensor networks as a massive concentration of organic spacecraft that moved with purpose and coordination that suggested intelligence despite their alien nature. Initial reconnaissance missions revealed the horrifying reality of Tyranid biology and the aliens' ability to adapt their forces based on encountered resistance, creating enemies that could evolve countermeasures to Tau weapons and tactics within a single engagement. The first battles against Tyranid forces demonstrated the inadequacy of conventional Tau military doctrine when facing enemies that possessed no recognizable command structure or strategic objectives beyond consumption and adaptation. Tyranid swarms attacked Tau positions with coordination that rivaled Tau tactical precision, but their approach to warfare emphasized biological adaptation and overwhelming numbers rather than technological superiority. The aliens' ability to absorb genetic material from defeated enemies and incorporate useful characteristics into subsequent generations created a constantly evolving threat that required continuous adaptation of Tau defensive strategies. Tau pulse weapons proved effective against individual Tyranid organisms, as the directed energy bursts could inflict sufficient damage to eliminate most bioforms through thermal shock and tissue disruption. However, the sheer numbers of Tyranid forces meant that even accurate Tau targeting could not eliminate enough organisms to prevent them from reaching Tau defensive positions. The aliens' biological adaptations included enhanced carapace armor and redundant organ systems that enabled them to survive damage that would have been fatal to conventional enemies, requiring Tau forces to develop new approaches to target selection and damage assessment. The development of specialized anti-bioform weaponry became a crucial priority for Earth Caste engineers, who worked to create weapons specifically designed to exploit Tyranid biological vulnerabilities. Flamer weapons that could deliver intense heat over wide areas proved effective against swarm organisms, while high-explosive munitions could eliminate multiple bioforms simultaneously through blast effects. Advanced targeting systems were modified to identify critical biological systems within Tyranid organisms, enabling more effective targeting that could achieve kills with fewer shots. The Battle of Shadrach demonstrated the horrifying efficiency of Tyranid consumption patterns, as the Hive fleet systematically stripped the planet of all organic matter while adapting their forces to counter Tau defensive measures. Tau evacuation efforts managed to rescue most of the planet's population, but the speed and thoroughness of Tyranid consumption shocked Tau observers who had never witnessed such complete ecological devastation. The planet's transformation from a thriving Tau colony to a barren husk within weeks provided stark evidence of the existential threat that Tyranid forces posed to all organic life in the galaxy. Tau tactical adaptations to Tyranid warfare emphasized mobility and the avoidance of prolonged engagements that would allow the aliens to adapt to Tau weapons and tactics. Fire Caste commanders developed hit-and-run strategies that maximized Tau firepower advantages while minimizing exposure to Tyranid adaptive responses, conducting rapid strikes against key bioforms before withdrawing to new positions. These tactics required exceptional coordination and timing, as Tau forces had to maintain effective fire discipline while executing complex maneuvers under pressure from rapidly adapting enemies. The integration of auxiliary forces proved particularly valuable during anti-Tyranid operations, as different species possessed unique capabilities that complemented Tau technological advantages. Kroot warriors' ability to consume Tyranid genetic material provided crucial intelligence about bioform capabilities and weaknesses, while their close combat skills enabled them to engage Tyranid forces in melee situations where Tau forces would be at severe disadvantage. Vespid stingwings offered aerial reconnaissance and precision strikes against Tyranid flying organisms, while their neutron blasters proved effective against heavily armored bioforms. The encounters with various Eldar craftworlds created complex diplomatic and military challenges that tested Tau understanding of alien psychology and strategic thinking. The Eldar's advanced technology and sophisticated tactical approaches made them formidable opponents, while their apparent interest in specific worlds and strategic objectives suggested that they operated according to long-term plans that Tau intelligence networks could not fully comprehend. Unlike orcs or Tyranids, the Eldar demonstrated clear evidence of advanced civilization and strategic thinking, creating opportunities for potential cooperation alongside the obvious military threats. The conflict over the maiden world of Myrmidon began when Tau expansion forces identified the planet as an ideal candidate for colonization, possessing favorable environmental conditions and abundant natural resources that could support substantial Tau population growth. Earth Caste survey teams detected no evidence of current habitation or industrial development, suggesting that the world was available for Tau settlement according to their standard colonization protocols. However, the arrival of Tau colonization fleets triggered an immediate response from Craftworld Alatok, whose forces appeared in the system with advanced warning systems that suggested they had been monitoring Tau expansion activities. The initial encounters between Tau and Eldar forces revealed the sophisticated nature of Eldar military technology and their mastery of tactics that emphasized speed, precision, and psychological warfare. Eldar aspect warriors demonstrated combat capabilities that rivaled Tau battlesuit formations, while their advanced vehicles and weapons systems incorporated technologies that Tau scientists could not immediately understand or counter. The aliens' use of psychic powers and advanced materials created tactical challenges that required Tau forces to develop new approaches to target acquisition and damage assessment. Eldar diplomatic overtures proved as sophisticated as their military capabilities, as Farseer representatives attempted to explain their connection to Maiden Worlds through concepts that did not translate easily into Tau understanding. The Eldar claimed ancient rights to worlds that they had ceded with life millions of years ago, arguing that Tau colonization would disrupt ecological balances and spiritual connections that were essential for Eldar survival. These explanations conflicted with Tau expansion doctrine and their understanding of territorial rights, creating philosophical disputes that could not be resolved through conventional diplomatic means. The tactical challenges posed by Eldar warfare forced Tau commanders to develop new approaches to combined arms coordination and battlefield intelligence gathering. Eldar forces employed hit-and-run tactics that exploited their superior mobility and advanced technology, striking at Tau positions with devastating effectiveness before withdrawing to new locations that were difficult to predict or counter. Their use of psychic powers enabled them to anticipate Tau tactical movements and coordinate their own forces with precision that rivaled Tau communication systems. Tau countermeasures against Eldar tactics emphasized the use of advanced sensor networks and predictive algorithms that could anticipate enemy movements based on observed patterns and tactical preferences. Earth Caste engineers developed specialized detection equipment that could identify Eldar vehicles and personnel despite their advanced stealth systems, while tactical doctrine evolved to incorporate rapid response capabilities that could engage Eldar forces before they could complete their attack runs and withdraw to safety. The philosophical differences between Tau and Eldar, approaches to expansion and territorial control, created persistent tensions that influenced their military interactions and diplomatic negotiations. Tau expansion doctrine emphasized practical utilization of available resources and the integration of suitable worlds into their growing empire, while Eldar territorial claims appeared to be based on ancient connections and spiritual considerations that Tau materialist philosophy could not fully comprehend. These fundamental differences in worldview made compromise difficult and contributed to the ongoing nature of their territorial disputes. The threat of chaos incursions represented perhaps the most disturbing challenge that Tau forces encountered during their expansion efforts, as these enemies operated according to principles that violated natural law and challenged fundamental Tau assumptions about the nature of reality. The Tau's minimal connection to the warp provided some protection against direct chaos corruption, but it also limited their understanding of the supernatural forces that drove chaos expansion and the methods necessary to combat demonic manifestations effectively. Tau encounters with chaos forces revealed the existence of threats that could not be addressed through conventional military means or technological solutions. The discovery of chaos corrupted human populations on worlds that Imperial records indicated should have been thriving colonies provided Tau forces with their first evidence of supernatural corruption and the reality of demonic influence. These encounters revealed the horrifying transformation that chaos worship could inflict on human populations, creating enemies that possessed superhuman capabilities and complete disregard for conventional concepts of survival or self-preservation. The presence of demonic entities that could manifest in real space challenged Ta'u's scientific understanding and forced them to develop new approaches to threat assessment and tactical response. Ta'u weapons proved effective against most chaos cultists and corrupted humans, as pulse technology could inflict sufficient physical damage to eliminate these enemies despite their enhanced capabilities. However, demonic entities presented unique challenges that required specialized approaches, as their supernatural nature enabled them to survive damage that would have been fatal to conventional enemies. Earth Caste engineers worked to develop weapons that could disrupt demonic manifestations through exotic energy types and specialized ammunition, though their understanding of the underlying principles remained limited. The psychological impact of fighting chaos forces proved as challenging as the tactical difficulties they presented, as Ta'u personnel struggled to maintain unit cohesion and combat effectiveness when confronted with enemies that violated fundamental assumptions about the nature of reality. Fire Caste training programs were modified to include preparation for supernatural encounters, while command protocols were developed to maintain tactical coordination when facing enemies that could manipulate perception and create false sensory input. These adaptations helped Ta'u forces maintain effectiveness against chaos threats, though the psychological stress of such encounters continued to pose challenges for personnel who had been trained to expect rational, predictable enemies. The opening of the Great Rift in the 42nd Millennium fundamentally altered the strategic landscape across the galaxy, creating unprecedented challenges for Ta'u expansion efforts while simultaneously presenting new opportunities for territorial growth and diplomatic engagement. The massive warp storm that split the galaxy in half disrupted established communication networks between distant Ta'u septs, forcing regional commanders to operate with greater autonomy than had been typical under previous ethereal guidance systems. Sept worlds that had previously maintained constant contact with Ta'u Prime found themselves isolated for months at a time, requiring local leadership to make critical decisions without the benefit of centralized coordination or philosophical guidance from the ethereal supreme. The communication disruptions caused by the Great Rift forced significant adaptations in Ta'u military and administrative doctrine, as Sept commanders learned to operate independently while maintaining adherence to fundamental Ta'u'va principles. Water Caste administrators developed new protocols for maintaining inter-sept coordination despite irregular communication windows, while Fire Caste commanders gained unprecedented authority to respond to local threats without waiting for approval from distant ethereal authorities. These adaptations strengthened individual sept capabilities while creating potential challenges for maintaining empire-wide unity and coordinated strategic planning. The isolation of frontier septs beyond the Great Rift accelerated their technological and military development, as these worlds were forced to become self-sufficient in ways that had not been necessary during the Empire's earlier expansion phases. Earth Caste engineers on isolated worlds developed innovative solutions to resource shortages and manufacturing challenges, creating new technologies and production techniques that enhanced local capabilities while maintaining compatibility with standard Ta'u systems. These innovations often exceeded the technological capabilities of core Ta'u worlds, as necessity drove rapid development cycles that produced breakthrough advances in multiple fields simultaneously. The Fourth Sphere expansion fleet's traumatic experience in the warp created lasting changes in Ta'u approaches to interstellar travel and expansion planning, as survivors returned with disturbing accounts of supernatural encounters that challenged fundamental Ta'u assumptions about the nature of reality. The fleet's exposure to warp entities and psychic phenomena forced Ta'u scientists to acknowledge the existence of forces that their materialist philosophy could not adequately explain, leading to new research programs focused on understanding and defending against supernatural threats. These investigations pushed the boundaries of Ta'u's scientific knowledge while raising uncomfortable questions about the limitations of purely technological solutions to galactic challenges. The technological developments emerging from Tau research institutions demonstrate unprecedented innovation in artificial intelligence systems, with Earth Caste engineers creating increasingly sophisticated AI protocols that approach true machine consciousness while maintaining the reliability and control mechanisms that prevent the catastrophic failures associated with other species' AI experiments. Borkin research facilities have developed neural network architectures that can process vast amounts of tactical data in real time, enabling drone systems to operate with near-autonomous decision-making capabilities while remaining integrated with organic command structures. These advances have produced drone formations that can coordinate complex tactical maneuvers without direct supervision, multiplying Tau combat effectiveness while reducing personnel requirements for dangerous operations. The integration of advanced AI systems with battlesuit technology has yielded remarkable improvements in pilot performance and tactical coordination, as machine intelligence supplements organic decision-making without replacing the intuition and creativity that characterize effective Tau commanders. The latest XV-95 Go-Skill battlesuits incorporate AI co-pilot systems that can manage targeting calculations, threat assessment, and tactical positioning, while the organic pilot focuses on strategic decision-making and coordination with other units. These hybrid systems enable individual pilots to control multiple weapon systems simultaneously while maintaining situational awareness across complex battlefields, creating force multiplication effects that enhance Tau military capabilities against numerically superior enemies. Earth Caste research into exotic materials and energy manipulation has produced breakthrough developments in battlesuit design, including experimental stealth systems that can render entire formations invisible to conventional detection methods while maintaining full combat effectiveness. The new stealth field generators incorporate metamaterial composites that can actively manipulate electromagnetic radiation across multiple spectrums, creating invisibility effects that surpass even the advanced stealth capabilities of previous Tau designs. These systems require enormous power consumption and sophisticated cooling mechanisms, limiting their deployment to elite formations, but their tactical impact has proven decisive in engagements where surprise and precision are more important than sustained firepower. The development of next-generation pulse weapons has focused on increasing energy efficiency and ammunition capacity while maintaining the precision and stopping power that characterize Tau firearms. Earth Caste engineers have created new plasma containment systems that can store larger energy charges in smaller packages, enabling the development of compact weapons with firepower previously reserved for vehicle-mounted systems. The latest pulse rifles incorporate adaptive targeting systems that can automatically adjust for range, atmospheric conditions, and target movement, enabling even inexperienced fire warriors to achieve accuracy levels that would have required veteran marksmen using previous generation equipment. Breakthrough weapon development programs have produced experimental systems that harness exotic energy types and unconventional physical principles to create devastating anti-armor and anti-personnel capabilities. The prototype XV-107 Aun'Va battlesuit mounts twin-pulse submunition cannons that fire self-guided projectiles capable of penetrating heavy armor before detonating with cluster munition effects that can eliminate multiple targets simultaneously. These weapons represent a significant departure from traditional Tau pulse technology, incorporating elements of Imperial and alien weapon design principles, while maintaining the reliability and precision that define Tau military equipment. The growing influence of auxiliary species within Tau society has created unprecedented opportunities for cultural exchange and technological innovation, as different species contribute unique perspectives and capabilities that enhance overall empire effectiveness. Kroot evolutionary adaptations have accelerated beyond their natural biological limits through careful genetic selection and consumption of specific prey species, creating specialized kindreds with capabilities tailored for particular military roles. Some Kroot populations have incorporated genetic material from aerial predators to enhance their jumping and climbing abilities, while others have consumed aquatic species to develop enhanced swimming capabilities and underwater combat effectiveness. The integration of auxiliary species into Tau command structures has progressed beyond simple military cooperation to include participation in strategic planning and administrative functions that were previously reserved for Tau personnel. Experienced Kroot shapers now serve as advisors to fire caste commanders, providing insights into enemy behavior and tactical recommendations based on their unique understanding of predator-prey relationships. Vespid strain leaders participate in air caste planning sessions, contributing their three-dimensional tactical perspective to the development of aerial combat doctrine and reconnaissance strategies. Human Gevasa populations have achieved remarkable integration into Tau society, with some individuals rising to positions of significant authority within water caste administrative hierarchies and earth caste technical organizations. The human ability to understand both imperial and Tau cultural perspectives has proven invaluable for diplomatic operations and intelligence gathering, while their adaptability and creativity have contributed to technological innovations that combine human ingenuity with Tau's scientific methodology. Several Gevasa commanders now lead mixed formations that include both human and Tau personnel, demonstrating the practical benefits of multi-species cooperation in military operations. The philosophical evolution of the greater good has accelerated as Tau society encounters increasingly diverse challenges and incorporates perspectives from multiple species with different cultural backgrounds and evolutionary histories. Traditional Tau'va interpretations that emphasized harmony and collective purpose have expanded to incorporate concepts of adaptive flexibility and pragmatic decision-making that reflect the realities of governing a multi-species empire across vast interstellar distances. These philosophical developments have created new interpretations of greater good principles that emphasize results over methods, allowing for tactical and strategic approaches that would have been considered unorthodox under previous ethereal teachings. The incorporation of auxiliary species perspectives into Tau'va philosophy has introduced concepts of evolutionary adaptation and survival-based decision, making that complement traditional Tau emphasis on technological advancement and social harmony. Kroot understanding of natural selection and predator-prey relationships has influenced Tau military doctrine, while human experiences with imperial governance have provided insights into the challenges of maintaining unity across diverse populations with competing interests. These multicultural influences have created a more flexible and adaptive interpretation of the greater good that can address the complex realities of galactic politics and interspecies cooperation. The growing diversity within Tau society has created subtle but significant challenges to traditional ethereal authority, as auxiliary species and isolated sept populations develop their own interpretations of Tau'va principles based on local conditions and cultural influences. Some frontier septs have adopted more aggressive expansion policies that prioritize military conquest over diplomatic conversion, while others have embraced isolationist approaches that focus on technological development rather than territorial growth. These variations in Tau'va interpretation reflect the practical challenges of maintaining philosophical unity across an expanding empire with increasingly diverse populations and strategic requirements. The emergence of alternative leadership models within some Tau communities has created precedents for governance systems that operate independently of direct ethereal control while maintaining commitment to greater good principles. The success of the Farsight enclaves in defending their territory and maintaining Tau cultural identity without ethereal guidance has demonstrated that Tau civilization can survive and prosper under different political arrangements. These examples have influenced political thinking throughout the empire, creating discussions about the optimal balance between centralized authority and local autonomy in an expanding interstellar civilization. The technological capabilities that continue to emerge from Tau research institutions suggest that the Empire's military and industrial advantages over most galactic civilizations will continue to grow, providing the foundation for sustained expansion and territorial consolidation. Advanced manufacturing techniques enable the production of sophisticated equipment at scales that can support large-scale military operations across multiple theaters simultaneously, while improved communication systems maintain coordination between widely separated forces despite the disruptions caused by warp storms and enemy interference. These technological advantages provide Tau forces with decisive superiority in most conventional military engagements, while enabling the rapid development of new colonies and industrial centers. The integration of captured alien technologies with Tau's scientific methodology has accelerated innovation in fields that had previously been limited by Tau understanding of fundamental physical principles. Research into Imperial plasma technology has yielded improvements in Tau fusion reactor efficiency, while studies of Eldar materials science have produced new composite materials with enhanced strength and flexibility characteristics. The careful incorporation of alien technological concepts while maintaining Tau design principles has created hybrid systems that combine the best aspects of different technological approaches without compromising reliability or tactical effectiveness. The expansion of Tau influence through diplomatic conversion rather than military conquest continues to prove more effective than conventional imperial expansion methods, as water caste negotiators successfully convince entire human populations to join the Tau Empire voluntarily. These diplomatic successes provide the Empire with additional industrial capacity and military personnel, while avoiding the resource expenditure and casualties associated with military campaigns. The growing number of human auxiliary populations also provides Tau forces with valuable intelligence about imperial military capabilities and strategic planning, enhancing their effectiveness in conflicts with imperial forces. As the Tau Empire continues to expand across the Eastern Fringe and beyond, the challenges and opportunities created by the Great Rift and the changing galactic environment will test every aspect of Tau civilization. The Empire's ability to maintain unity while embracing diversity, to preserve philosophical coherence while adapting to practical necessities, and to balance technological advancement with cultural preservation will determine whether the Tau can achieve their ultimate goal of bringing the greater good to the entire galaxy. The foundations established during their first millennia of expansion provide a solid base for future growth, but the unprecedented challenges of the current era will require continued innovation and adaptation to ensure the Tau Empire's survival and prosperity in an increasingly dangerous and unpredictable galaxy. The future of the Tau Empire lies not in the rigid adherence to ancient traditions, but in the dynamic application of greater good principles to ever-changing circumstances. Their success will depend on their ability to learn from each encounter, to grow stronger through diversity, and to maintain their commitment to collective advancement while respecting the unique contributions of all species within their expanding civilization. In a galaxy torn by war and consumed by hatred, the Tau offer a vision of cooperation and progress that may represent the best hope for lasting peace and prosperity among the stars.